Hello, everybody. Okay, we're gonna be trying a new game today. So I don't know how my stream's gonna handle it. I can see it already slightly lagging, but a lot of my friends like that I normally play Valorant with have been telling me to play the game. Hi, Sleepy. Hi, everybody. Thank you for redeeming your daily gold coin. I haven't had the chance to adjust the settings of this game, so I don't know how it's gonna run, and I don't know how my stream's gonna run, but I guess we're gonna find out together. But the game is, you've probably seen in the description, is Wuthering Waves. I feel like I'm saying that wrong, but a lot of people that I'm friends with have been telling me to get the game and play it. It's very similar to Genshin Impact. It's super laggy. I know. I can see it being super laggy. Of course. You can hear me fine. Maybe I'll just turn my camera off and then you won't know that it's lagging. I don't know. Anyways, a lot of my friends been telling me to play it. It's very much like Genshin Impact. If you guys know what that is. Oh no, we're taking ad break. I forgot to snooze ads. Guys, this is what happens when you last minute stream. I just wanted to try the game with you guys. I don't know why it's lacking. You love ad breaks? I don't know about that one. Okay, maybe when I get onto the game and I am able to change the settings, it will be less straining on my laptop. I've also turned on my fan now, so I think that's kind of helped a little bit. It's not lagging as much. I think maybe because I turned the fan on, yeah. Okay. Hello, wizardess. Oh god, I'm so bad with names. Is it still lagging, guys? I don't think I can change much yet because the game is running. I just haven't got to a point where I can change settings for some reason. I literally had to do like some weird stuff on my keyboard to be able to make it windowed and then move it onto my other screen. So I haven't come across the settings yet. But anyway, this game is very much like Genshin Impact apparently. I did play Genshin when it came out. I just didn't continue with it because by the time I had got to a decent level, all my friends had moved on from the game. And so I didn't have any reason to play it. Genshin Impact, that is. I mean, I played it here and there, but also my laptop just cannot run it. So I'm a bit scared about running this one. Yeah, you got it right. Some people have a hard time saying wizards. Yeah, I just have a hard time saying any names when like people come in my chat. I'm just like, am I saying that right? But I haven't done anything on the game other than set up my account. I'm not even named her yet, although I do have a name in mind. But I wanted you guys to see it from the beginning. I was gonna play it on my own, but I was like, I want to experience it with people. And we're gonna be grinding because obviously I want to co-op, like play co-op with my friends. So that'd be fun. It's giving very much like the same vibes as Genshin, and like if you've seen the artwork, it looks similar. And obviously it's a gacha game, and we're gonna be trying to pull for like 5 stars and good characters, which I don't know anything about the game really. We're gonna be learning on the job together. If anybody has played this game yet, I am open to any tips, but no spoilers please, and no harsh comments about how I'm deciding to play this because I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't think it's lagging anymore, so maybe it was just my thing, my laptop being weird. Anyways, shall we get into it? Okay, I need to turn the volume back up now because it was like so loud and I can't hear myself think. Right. So yeah, this is what's been blasting through my headphones because I can't seem to change it. Oh! Sponsored stream. This is not a sponsored stream. Lag's gone. I don't know how long the lag's gonna be gone when we start playing the game, but we'll try and adjust the settings so that it's not as high graphics because I'm playing on a laptop, guys, and this laptop is fighting for its life. Anyways, I don't know if the music is too loud. It's very loud in my ears, at least. So these are the 2 characters you first see. Obviously you can choose whether you want to be a male or female. And then you can name your character. Now, what do we want to... It should have been sponsored. You do a great ad. I don't know. What's my ad for? Lagging streams? Is that my ad? But yeah, I don't think I'd be sponsored yet anyways, but it's something I'm working towards, so hopefully in the future we'll be able to see that. Anyways, I had a name for her. Aria. I know it's simple and I know it's a bit... I'm trying to be quirky with the 2 eyes, but I've actually named her after one of the kids I look after at the nursery because I really like her name and she's so sweet to me. So we're gonna go with that. And we are going as a female character because... yeah. Right, so what does it say? The 3rd planet from the sun... where old conventions are discarded and disaster run rampant. Human civilization struggles to survive in a new era of destruction and rebirth, facing uncharted challenges and unwavering determinations, right? So I don't actually know much about anything, and I guess we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out. Fine. Yep, giving very Genshin Impact vibes here. Oh? What's happening? Her hand through me, what the? So pretty. Final Fantasy X Genshin? Yeah! I mean, I've never played Final Fantasy, but I've seen what it looks like, so... It's so pretty! Oh, it's beautiful. The artwork, the graphics is beautiful. The design, the animation, everything. Oh, we're upside down. You should try Final Fantasy. You'll love it. I may do. I think it's on my list, but my list is very long. Like of games I'm gonna play.
You're awake. Let me see. Let me see. Thank goodness you're awake, or I'll have to try my last-ditch move. Emergency skills for junior patrollers. Lesson 1, CPR.
I did my CPR training the other week. If you guys saw on Twitter, I could do CPR as well.
Jisia. Sorry. You just woke up.
Oh my god, they're so pretty. What the?
Of a storm.
Am I gonna be like?
All right? Do you feel any discomfort?
You are.
You can call me Trisha, and she's Yang Yang.
Where am I?
We are in the Gorgeous Spirits. It's on the outskirts of Jinzhou, Huanglong. Your attire doesn't seem local. Are you a roving traveler from afar, or someone returning home?
Rover? I don't remember. What is a rover?
So you don't know why you're here, where you're from, or who you are?
Typical for these type of games. I'm noticing a lot of boob. Literally, that's what I was thinking. I was like, boobs. But yeah, very typical for these type of games, definitely.
Baizha didn't tell us you'd have these after effects when you wake up. The wind has brought us a warning. The Aetheric Sea is converging. It seems a new tacit field is taking shape.
What do you mean by that?
That means it's probably gonna get dangerous here soon. I knew it. Our gourds are out of service because of the Aetheric Sea's influence. We can't send or receive messages for help now. We better hurry over to meet up with Baizha at our gathering spot and get out of here.
Oh, it has terminals above, because that's what it means, I'm guessing.
Guess you really can't recall a thing, but don't worry. If you got any questions, we can talk as we move. Yang Yang and I will give you the full scoop, every little detail from the get-go. Rover.
Okay.
Can we call you that for now? Before you remember your true name?
I believe so. You can call me that for now. It suits me. It does not suit me. So you can just call me that for now.
We shouldn't stay here. If you don't have other plans, how about leaving with us for now?
Is there only one way to the gorge? Okay. We're inquisitive. We're gonna ask.
The terrains are complicated here, and we usually take that one route. If you don't mind, perhaps we can leave together for now. You can decide your future plans once we leave here. Yeah, let's get
I love
going.
how we just don't have a voice. Okay, chapter 1, act 1. Oh, I didn't get to read it, but okay.
Rover, I know you can't remember a thing, but there's one thing I'm 90%, no, 100% sure about you. You must be a resonator too.
Oh!
You've got a tacit mark on the back of your hand, and you have a gourd. This is proof you're a resonator. Your gourd's design looks a
Where
bit
did they
different
go?
from the
And
ones
also,
we
it's
use,
so
though.
hard to
Also,
turn.
we have resonators who can detect the
Oh my
formation
god, they're
of
yapping
tacit
so
fields
loud.
nearby.
Okay, let's go into the settings because it's so loud. I hate when games are very loud in my ear. And I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. 50%. I mean, we'll see how it runs. If it gets laggy, we can turn down some of these things. Okay, so this is us. Change avatar. These are the avatars we can choose. So we don't have these ones, so we can't choose those. We can't choose any of these yet. They're all locked right now. Oh, that's the same thing. Edit name, edit bio, set birthday. Well, my birthday is the 3rd. Wait, no. Backwards for me. The 3rd of September, guys. And then you can write a bio, but I don't really know what to write for that right now. I guess that's when you make friends and stuff. Rank 1 and what is this? Resonated. Okay. Okay. And you can level up by using these things, which we don't have. What is this? Oh, this gives you XP. Yours is the 5th of September? Look at us, Virgos. Oh, what's this? We'll do quests for it and stuff? Okay. And this is where we can see our quests. So we've got the Utterance of Marbles. And we get these gifts. Okay. Are these all the quests? Okay. And then gallery. Sceneries. We don't have anything yet. Main story. We only have one thing at the moment. Okay. So when I play these kind of games, I like to follow the main quest first, the main story quest, and then I go on to like, I mean, if we hit a stump in the road, we can do some of the side quests. But what is this? I don't know anything. Oh my god, what's this? A weapon. This is a daily login event. Oh, okay. Awakening Journey. Echo Hunters. Okay. Oh, we have to reach level 8 first before we can do that. What is this? Got an exclamation mark on it. Level 9. We're not even level anything yet. Okay, that's for later on then. Custom 5-star resonator, give back event. Oh, it's for a whole year. Reach union level 8 or have unlocked function. Special note. Okay. Oh, I think that's because. Oh, okay. Okay, and then what's this? Oh, this is the camera. We can take a picture. That's pretty cool. Zoom out and zoom in. What else is there? There's a map. I'm guessing that this whole thing. Oh, yeah. A giant map that we have to explore and unlock things for. Okay. It looks kind of shaped a bit similarly to England, isn't it? Maybe it's just me. Okay. Let's go. Oh wait, is there like a sensitivity thing? Because my my thing is very Oh god, I don't know what any of this means. um you lower it a little bit. No. It has to go higher. I always forget which ways makes it higher. Okay. Where are we going? Can we sprint? Oh, we dash. And you can also dash when you right click. Okay, yeah. I thought jumping onto the wall would help, like, make you jump, like, actually climb. Okay, we gotta go here. So, leave Gorge of Spirits. Oh my god, there's a lizard. Can I catch it? F. Oh, I picked it up. Where did my friends go? Oh, I can pick these up.
It may seem all nice and quiet here now, but you never know when a tacit discord might pop up out of nowhere. Oh my! Speak of the devil!
What? Where even are they? I can hear them, but I don't see them. Hold W and this to wall dash. Okay. Oh, we gotta fight something. How do we fight? Oh. Oh. I don't know what I'm doing. Is that it? Am I doing this fine? Whoa. I'm lagging a tiny bit. If I hold, she does like combo things? I don't know. Okay. See, I'm just holding. If you click, you just hit like one tap. But then if you hold, it does that.
So you still don't
Okay.
know how to fight despite having forgotten everything? Wow.
I guess so.
The charge next time. No one messes with my shop. I mean, Chisha.
Alright, I'm just looking around, like, if there's anything else we can collect. Okay. Not too bad. Not too bad. Whoa. That is sick. Oh, I'm remembering something. Hello. Thank you for the follow. Welcome. Trying this new game. Still learning the ropes. Don't know if I'm doing any of this right. Am I injured from the fight? I think I remember something. What is a statue? I can't be certain, so let's ask what the statue is.
This is the statue of Jue, the sentinel in Zhengzhou, in the shape of a long.
Okay, so the sentinel. So a sentinel is an oracle engine, and a long is a dragon. Okay.
There's one capital and 6 cities in Huanglong, with each city having its own sentinel. While they share some similarities in appearance, there are also differences.
I remember something. Celestial Dragon. Yes. Hi. You've been seeing me on X. You finally got to catch me live. Oh my goodness, hi. I've been meeting a lot of lovely people on X recently. Calling it X actually is a bit out. Like, I normally call it Twitter, but I know a lot of people call it X as well. I'm still adjusting. But I'm doing well, thank you. I've been revising a lot, as you probably seen on my Twitter post. I got exams, but I got this game today, and I was like, I really want to try it. A lot of my friends been bugging me to get it, and I was like, I don't want to get addicted to a game while I'm doing exams, but I give in. And so here I am, streaming it to you guys because I wanted to experience it with my friends, which are you guys. What was I doing? Okay, I saw myself standing face to face with it. What do other sentinels look like? Are there other sentinels outside of... I want to ask the questions, you know?
In Huanglong, most of the sentinels take the shape of a long. In other regions, they manifest in various forms.
Okay, so there are... She answered both those questions then. So there are other sentinels and they do take the form of dragon. Oh no, I can ask both. Okay, cool.
Civilizations thrive. Huanglong stands out with the highest number of currently coexisting sentinels because of its long history and vast land.
Okay. Oh, exams, no bueno, no. So stressful, but I have faith in me. Oh, thank you. I'm just looking forward to my final one, which is on Tuesday, and then I'm done for summer, and I'm moving to a new flat on the weekend, next weekend, and I'll be able to set up nicely and be like just concentrating on my content and working, obviously, my part-time job, but no uni stuff. Thank the lords.
Sentinels in Huanglong were once a single entity. Now they're each responsible for a part of Huanglong. Naturally, there are sentinels in other regions too, but fewer compared to Huanglong.
Okay. And then I saw myself standing face to face with it.
Face to face with our sentinel? One can hardly see our sentinel with their own eyes. According
Oh,
to your
I actually skipped that.
You stood pretty close. Only the sentinel's appointed resonator is allowed in its proximity. For now, that person is the magistrate of Zhenzhou.
Okay, the magistrate is the highest officer. Perhaps it's just my imagination. ... What's the ... gonna give us? Oh good, someone's right around the corner for you. What kind of game is this? So this game is very similar to Genshin Impact, if you've heard of it. It's... I'm not very good with, what's it called? Genres of game. So I'm just gonna quickly open up its like little description thing. So hold on. So I can just read that for you. I don't want to say it wrong. So yeah, so it's an RPG open world action adventure game. You can also do co-op with it, which I think you have to get to a certain level though before you can do that. Very excited for it though. And basically our character, who is this one here, we called her Aria. She has lost all her memories and she just watched... Oh my god, that was... Dark Souls, Genshin. I guess that's... I've not played Dark Souls before though, so I can't really say, but if you played Dark Souls, then yeah. Yeah, we're just figuring out what's happened. We just washed up on shore, met these two girls, and they're taking us to the right place, to the town, I'm guessing, the city. And now we're just inquiring about this. OBS leak for real, because the game wouldn't like capture under game capture, it just captured under like my display, so it's like OBS is like picking up my whole display, my second monitor, and for some reason when I close OBS and then open it, it always opens on my second monitor. So yeah, expose myself there, guys. Not much to expose myself with, but perhaps it's just my imagination.
Whoa, darn! That must be an elite class.
Chuzia might be in danger. Rover, please.
Oh, am I just automatically the fighter person? Where am I going? Oh no! Not another fight! You hurt. Oh wait, oh, hold on. I'm scared. Press R to use Oh, what's that do? Nothing. I can't turn my mouse. Oh, okay. Maybe it did quite a lot. Anyway, you heard of Genshin, never played. The art style is always so beautiful. Yes, it is. It's so gorgeous. Like, where's this music? Sorry, I just realized the music was different. But when it did like the intro thing where we see our character, like kind of how she came to the land, it was so beautifully done. Oh my gosh, hi Liv! Thank you for redeeming your daily gold coin. How are you? Okay, dealing damage to few enemies or performing dodge grants resonance energy. When resonance energy is full, the powerful resonance liberation becomes available. Okay, so that was that move we did. Ah! Hold up. Did you guys see that? I'm up late. When am I never up late, Liv? I'm always up late. I was doing so much revision today. I was like, I need to treat myself. And a lot of my friends on my Discord were like bugging me to get this game. So now I need to grind it so that I can play with them. But yeah, I'm always up late. Now we have to fight this big boy, and I'm scared. Oh! Oh my gosh, thank you! Arcade! You didn't have to do that. You gotta head back to work, so I stop. Introduce yourself. You go by Hez or Johnny. Okay, it was great to meet you. I hope to see you again soon. And it's great to see another ex friend, as in friend from X. Yeah. This is true. Yes, this is very true. I'm always awake. Wait, why has that got an exclamation mark next to it? Oh, I can play as Yang Yang. What's this gonna? Oh no, it can't. Okay. Ah! Oh, I can switch. Oh, hello. What does her E do? No! Oh god, guys, I'm not good at these kind of games, like the fighting elements of these games. Like, I want to see so bad. When I was playing Zelda, oh my god, the amount of times I had to redo things. Please. I can't focus. Oh, I can just easily, like... Ah! Run! I can't turn my mouse quick enough. This is not good. Switch to 2. Oh, her intro move. Okay. Okay. That where am I? I can't move my mouse quick enough for this. I swear I turned my sensitivity like... I don't like it. Am I doing this right? Am I dying? How do I know what my health is? Oh, I did it! Somehow! Somehow I did it! Oh my god! I'm so bad! Oh my gosh, hi! Lazy Kitty, I know that's your username. What do you want me to call you though? Because I know your name, but I don't want to out your name if you're not comfortable with that. So let me know. Do you want me to call you Lazy Kitty or your actual name? But yeah, hi, welcome. Okay, we made it. We fought that guy. I'm scared because if this is what we're fighting at the beginning, I can't imagine what we're gonna end up fighting. Okay, resonators gain concerto energy when dealing damage or performing dodges in combat. When it's full, okay. Steve. Courtney is fine. Courtney's fine. Okay, I just didn't want to out you there. But, or Steve. Okay. Right. Outro skills and intro skills. Switch your resonator when concerto energy is full to trigger the exiting resonator's outro skill and consume all the concerto energy to trigger the incoming resonator's intro skill. Guys, I'm not going to remember all of this. How am I going to remember all of this? I don't know. I got something from that. I don't know what that is. Where's my inventory? Backpack. What did I get? I'm lost. It's fine. We'll move on. Now I can play as my character Aria or Yang Yang. That's cool. Let's have a look over here if there's anything. Okay, a pearl leaf. Let's collect that. I just wanted to pop by and say hello and have a good stream. Can't stay because I'm like, oh, hello. It's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Oh, everyone's at work. What time is it for you guys? It's like 11:40 for me. PM. Stupid time zones, right? Oh my god, what is happening? What was that? I want to climb this thing. Where does this lead me to? I don't know if I'm not meant to go here, but I just want to see like if there's anything for me to collect. Oh, never mind. I just jump off. Also, the mouse just feels so weird. I need to fix it. I used to play Genshin, but the fighting stressed me out. No, literally, Eastern American time, it's 6:44 p.m. Oh, okay, that's fair. Have a good rest of your shift. Yeah, I used to play Genshin as well. But I haven't had it on my laptop because of the I don't know if this is right, by the way. I don't know what I'm doing. If it's high, does that mean it moves quicker? Yeah, okay, cool. Yes, I like it fast like that. My sensitivity is very high on Valorant, and everyone's like, why is it so high? But that's how I like it, okay? Anyways, yes, I used to play Genshin Impact as well. Wasn't very good at it either. Like, the fighting always stressed me out. I wasn't very sure about what I was meant to do most of the time.
Anyway, Yan Yan was trying to shield you, and then bam! The
What is this? Check info board. But yeah, I played Genshin Impact because a lot of my friends, like at the time that it came out, were playing it, and they had it a bit longer than me, so they were already at the level where you can multiplayer and co-op. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to join them. But by the time I got the game and by the time I got to that level, they had moved on. So I kind of played it still, but not as much because they didn't really play it as much. But those exact same friends, actually, one of them is the reason why I'm playing this right now, because she was playing it last night when she joined the voice call with me and my other friends, and she was telling us that it's very addictive and very cool. So here we are. You had it on the PlayStation and same got lost, and there was way too much mechanics at once. Yeah. I feel like I'm very bad at these type of games. But I do want to try and get better, especially if like this time I have the chance to level up in time before she moves on again. Hopefully. That's the hope, that I'll be able to co-op with her. Wait, what is this? Sorry, I didn't read it. Work overview, the initial phase of mapping, blah, blah, blah. Is this important? Do I need to know this? Maybe not. That's my problem, guys. I don't read. And maybe I should read. But, anywho, where are we going? I'm just looking over here if there's anything for me to collect. But, you know, she told me one thing, like, I was like, what's the top tip for playing this game? And she said, just have fun and don't worry about the meta and just do what I want to do, get the characters I want to get. Oh my god, I got a fish. I'm fishing. So I'm just going to play it how I want and just, like, get it to be one of our, like, little cozy games that we play sometimes. Ooh! what do we get? A lot of things. Press B to open backpack. Okay. So we've got a wood texture shard. What else do we get? These are the things we found at the pond. We got some fish. We got a basic Renee. God, guys, I can't read. Resonance potion. So I guess this is what you use in like combat. I do not know. Okay, we also got this basic energy core, and we have Yang Yang's sword, which we can upgrade and stuff. But I don't want to do anything yet. So let's just get to finishing this quest first, the first quest of the game.
There's a resonance beacon over there. When you see a beacon, be sure to register and activate it. It's usually safe within a 5-meter radius of a beacon. It
Okay.
can protect you from danger sometimes.
Okay.
Could you hand me your terminal for a moment? Rover,
What is happening?
Rover, could you hand
Okay, so we've got this. Oh, okay, so this is like a
could you hand me your
fast
terminal
time
for a
travel
moment?
thing. Where is she?
Done. Its
Oh.
design and system version are different from ours.
Okay.
Your terminal still has the data transfer and other basic functions.
What is this? Can I break this? Oh, I can. I got a fluoro amber. Ooh. Don't like how it was in a spider web though. That scared me. I thought I was about to get jumped by a spider. Oh my god, more fish. Right, let's
We're almost
keep
at
going.
the gorge's entrance. There will be a descent, but if your terminal's glider module still works, it will make things easier.
Oh, do we still have a glider?
Once you're out of the gorge, there's only a short walk to reach Jinzhou.
Ooh, pretty.
Jinzhou is the safest place around here. The Resonance Nexus provides coverage for the whole city. Besides, we've got a protective barrier and strong fortifications.
Sounds impressive. Not bad. Let's be nice. It sounds impressive.
Right?
Jinzhou sits between the Desert Highland and the Northel Barrens. It's a border city and a fortress. It's very crucial to the safety of Huanglong.
Huh? We've agreed to meet up with Bai Zhe here. Where is she?
Who are we waiting for? What is this? What do these buttons do? I don't want to press them. I want to know what's happening. I'm stressing.
Center of the Etheric Sea.
Oh, am I gonna have to fight something?
A
I'm
test
scared.
field?
What the heck is that?
When did it show up? It wasn't here when we just got here.
But I didn't sense a hint of a tacit field's presence.
So it appeared while we weren't looking? Like, or maybe the Etheric Sea can tell where we are. Could it be following us?
The center of the tacit field.
Something is there. Someone is there. Huh? Something? I don't want to. Oh my gosh!
Baija?
Thank you, Annie, for the gifting and sub. Oh my goodness, that's so sweet. I love when we all come together as a little community. That's so sweet. Thank you. Flynn is a very lucky person.
Baija!
We're too
happening?
far away. Perhaps she can't hear us.
Isn't the Why is she there? Why is she there?
Up around here and she said she was off to collect some samples. Gosh, did she really go straight into the heart of the tacit field for that?
Did she? I
Baija
hope not.
wouldn't take such risks without careful consideration. Freshly formed tacit fields go through a dormant period. The faster a tacit field forms,
Expand the community. Yeah, expand the community. I love it.
now, this tacit field should be safe.
Hopefully we won't bump into Tacit Discord as soon as we get there. Is there any chance that I don't know how to say her name. Down there is bait?
True. Who could have set the bait then?
I don't know what this is. Am I blaming them? No, I don't want to fight them.
Discords can parrot human speech and behavior, namely the whisperings. I doubt.
Hold on. Like, I saw this thing here and I thought maybe it was just a cut, but it looks like the same shape as that thing that's down there. And the fact that I could have blamed one of them maybe indicates that one of them is part of this or something. And then the fact that I can only play Yang Yang leaves only her. But I might just be speculating. Can we not go in there?
Right. The glider can't carry us beyond the tacit field's range. Besides, Baija is there. We'll have to go down and see what is going on.
Oh, I thought that was
Now
what.
it's time to use the glider module. Rover, let me help you activate it.
Okay. Move. Prepare to glide. Okay. Easy enough. I'm scared.
Aisha, we're in a dormant tacit field, right? Why did you come here by yourself? Aisha, you know we...
I'm scared. She's very pretty though. What's happening?
You are all right, it seems.
Yeah, she was super energetic. Handled a super big TD. Way more spirited than me.
I've been keeping an eye on her condition through the street.
What just happened? What's going on? Is this a mind reading gathering? What's going on? What is going on? I'm lost. Where am I?
She is just concerned about your condition. She must think we shouldn't be letting you move around that much, since you've just regained consciousness.
I'm sus. And the music's making me even more sus. I'm alright. Oh, I suddenly felt so much pain. Feel so much pain. Huh? I don't know what that.
Now look at that.
What? I thought I was laughing.
Place for talking. Let's go.
Oh. What was my response? I thought I was just laughing at her. Something is happening. I'm not being affected though. Oh! That made me jump. Oh, am I gonna have to fight? I don't want to fight. I'm gonna have to fight. Oh, I mean, I have to fight, guys. Ah! Oh! Oh, shoot. Dodge, dodge, dodge. Lock in the camera. Am I locked in? Am I locked in? Ah! Oh! Well,
Rover is with me.
is that the Grim Reaper? I don't even know, but he's scary.
It's the tacit discord's ability.
Am I... Okay, I'll do this.
Let me be your blade. Let the winds roar.
I think I'm doing something well. I don't know. I don't like this. Dodge. Switch to walking. Okay. Ah! Okay, is that good? Oh no, we need to dodge.
Speeding up.
Swift and resolute.
Ah! What's happened? Oh wow, of course he gets wings. Ah! That's not fair! Okay. Okay.
Keep it together.
What? Oh no. Okay, okay, okay. Okay. Well, okay, okay, now. Oh my god. No! Bad timing, guys. Now. Oh my god. I'm not doing this right. I need to do it when he has the halo, but like that. Right?
I sense it. The hour is upon us.
Let me be your blade.
Okay.
Shake the shapeless.
Happening? Am I doing it right? I don't think so. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Yeah, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die, guys. It's official. I need to dodge. I need to dodge. Get out. This guy is like... I need to dodge his thing. Like that? Yes? Like that? Am I doing it? Nope. When that thing goes full, we need to... Oh, what's happening? Did I do... Nope. This is a learning curve. Oh, I think I did it right. Oh man, this is gonna be tricky.
Are you alright? Are you hurt?
I'm fine.
Oh, thank goodness. We could see that darn barrier, but couldn't lay a finger on it.
I'm fine too. I've never seen such a formidable tacit discord before, but Rover was able to completely defeat it.
We beat it together, girl. We beat it together.
I didn't really do much. It was all thanks to you, Rover.
I don't know about that one, Chief, but
That's
okay.
strange. This place isn't known to be so dangerous.
Anyway, come check this out.
An illusion left by the tacit discord, and this is... Well, we know what it is.
Oh, this is an echo.
Okay. Oh.
Wow, an echo of the elite class. Someone got lucky today.
My apologies. We got a little carried away. Does reverberation or echo ring a bell to you, Rover?
Nope, I have no idea what you're on about.
Everything in our world is made up of frequencies, and every sound generates a reverberation. Those echoes are the lingering reverberations of tacit discords after they disintegrate. We can absorb them into the databanks in our Pangu terminals.
By Pangu Terminal, she means the gourd-shaped device every resonator has, developed by researchers in Huanglong. But you see, it's not always we get to find these. Also, they're
Absorption
Oh,
is
I didn't
only
mean to do that.
possible when your databank's level is equal to or higher than the tacit discord's level. The terminal can then convert its reverberation into an echo for use in battle.
Okay. So
My
can we do
terminal
that?
issued a warning when it detected that tacit discord earlier. It should at least be an Overlord class. Rover, would you mind checking your databank level?
no
Okay.
need for that. Rover, why don't you just try absorbing it with your terminal?
Okay. Let's not even check my level. Let's just do it.
Oh, so it doesn't work.
It says I'm level 0. What will happen if I can't absorb it?
It won't take long before the reverberations disappear and the etheric sea vanishes. Once that happens, the resonance beacon signals will come back. The tacit field will dissipate, biding time for its next resurgence. We'll need to report the unusual phenomena here to the City Hall and the Academy. Let's make our exit.
Okay. So we don't get any echo from that fight. We just... Okay, that's fine by me. Oh. Oh. What did I do? Just got rid of it. Me.
What kind of power is that? Rover, you've been playing the fool all along?
Oh, I'm remembering stuff.
I've never seen a resonance ability quite like this. You got any other tricks up your sleeve? Like eating a whole tacit discord? Grilling echoes alive?
That wasn't my resonance ability. I have no idea what happened. It's not different from eating it alive. How does that relate to my cooking skills? I have no idea what happened.
Could it be related to your lost memories? Can you recall anything now? Rover?
Nope.
Are you feeling alright? Could it be the side effect of fighting that tacit discord? Baizhi, can we take Rover to do a checkup at Huashu Academy's Resonance Medical Department?
I'm fine.
Baizhi?
Absorbing echoes with the human body is not entirely unprecedented.
With the human body. I remember Comprehensive Mirror for Historians mentioned this in the Huanglong section's opening. A celestial being descended, commanding the Tiankun's boundless power. Assuming mortal form, they condensed the primordial essence.
Oh my
creating
god.
cleaving
Tony!
heaven apart, they
You didn't
aligned
have
the
to,
celestial
but
and
thank
terrestrial.
you. I appreciate it.
Radiance encompassed the four corners.
You guys treating me today.
Illustrious annals of Huanglong, as provinces were first demarcated.
Bro, they yap a lot, don't they? Thank you so much for the sub. I appreciate you. I don't want to ask them much more. I'm just gonna say it sounds interesting.
You seem quite mysterious too.
Whether it's true or not, that story happened a long time ago, when Jinzhou didn't even exist. Could it be that Rover's like
You wanted to just... Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it.
great granny of us all?
Now you get to use all my cool emotes, which are of my face.
Let's not jump to conclusions without enough data and proper analysis.
Okay.
Over.
I want to see the city. Or the town, or whatever. I want to see what it looks like. Gets the cool emotes. Yeah! Oh Oh my gosh, that one is so funny to me.
The signal's back.
This is a holographic message to all of Jinzhou from the City Hall.
Oh my god, they look so cool.
Fellow soldiers and citizens, I apologize for any inconvenience caused. I am Jin Shi, the magistrate of Jinzhou.
She sounds like a child.
As the Moon Chasing Festival approaches, our city welcomes visitors from around the world.
Also, so in these other games, they find someone with amnesia.
By our people.
They are like,
To
you can
share
save our town.
sentiment.
Yeah, literally. Most of these kind of games always start the same with them not remembering their memories and stuff. Like the same in Zelda and obviously the same in Genshin. Yeah, suddenly we can just save the town even though we don't really remember much.
Jinzhou has always been a crucial defense against the tacit discord outbreaks, safeguarding Huanglong. We have a heavy responsibility on our shoulders with no room for retreat or failure. It is the dedication of our warriors, along with the diligence of our citizens, that has allowed us
She's so
to
pretty, look at
thrive
her.
in peace and prosperity. Despite the challenges of tacit discords, we remain steadfast and hospitable to visitors, upholding our enduring traditions. With that in mind, I have a favor to ask.
A good thing about this game though is it is free on Epic Games if you wanted to play it. Yeah. I think there's like in-game stuff that you can buy, like any game. And this game's got like a gacha, I think that's what it's called. So you can use real money to get like certain characters that you want with that, but I'm not gonna buy anything with my own money.
Among our many visitors,
I'll try.
there's one visitor that holds utmost importance to me, the city of Jinzhou, and the entirety of Huanglong. We have awaited your arrival for a long time.
Oh my god. She is like a less sassy payment. Yeah. It is giving that kind of vibe, isn't it?
Given the circumstances, you may be feeling bewildered at this time.
But literally, as we were saying, like, now what? We're gonna have to save the city when we don't even remember much.
You should have noticed some strange happenings related to you. If you plan to stay in Jinzhou for some time, I would be more than delighted to personally meet you in the City Hall of Jinzhou. While I can't
Okay, let's
guarantee
go, let's
to
go.
provide all the answers you need, I will do my best to assist you and provide necessary permissions, if applicable. This is only my personal request. You can decide your course of action in any way you see fit. Therefore, I request the people and soldiers of Jinzhou to assist this esteemed visitor when the opportunity
They talk so
arises.
much. Don't know your name. Don't worry. Here's a sword. Time to save the town. Literally, they just found me like was about to give me CPR, and suddenly I'm fighting bosses for them. Fine.
Why do I get this feeling?
This person our magistrate was talking about.
As Rover.
Yep, that's me. It's still too early to tell. Moon Chasing Festival. Yeah, that's me. Now let's go, guys.
Wow.
Enough
so
yapping.
That's the true measure of a chief. I mean, of our rover.
What are you going to say, Chief?
This is the true measure of a chief. It's a famous line from a good old hero play. It's been running for almost 4 years. It's a really heartwarming tale about the chief and their squad.
Does that hero play story sound familiar to
Hey, that ain't the point, okay?
Right, guys, let's get to the town. Come on. Go meet the magistrate at the city hall. Go to the city. I don't have plan. Take a look at the festivities. Let's go to the city.
I remember you had a flashback of yourself looking into its eyes when you saw the statue of our sentinel. We can't confirm its authenticity, but based on the magistrate's message, it seems Chenzhou has a lot to do with your past.
Okay, then let's go. Let's stop dilly dally. Why is it so
Magistrate mentioned
much
it a
yapping?
lot. He was surely important to Chenzhou, and you will be our important
Friend! We've already entrusted our lives to each other. I've never seen so many TDs packed together. And that elite one was so scary. Well, anyway, once we're back in Jinzhou, I'll treat you that famous specialty from Panhua's restaurant.
Alright, let's go. I can't believe I thought that she was evil. I was so sus. Let's go. Let's head to the city. I don't have anyone else to. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, we have to run. Okay,
It would
fine.
be best for your well-being to have a thorough physical examination once we arrive in Jinzhou. While there don't seem to be any immediate side effects following the absorption of that echo, we cannot rule out the possibility of other latent risks. Given our lack of data on you and your unusual physical signs, I suggest absorbing another reverberation with your terminal when we find one.
They
That
like to
being said,
yap a
please be
lot,
sure to
guys.
proceed cautiously.
Yeah, don't go too hard on yourself. You should get a checkup just to be safe. Besides, Yang Yang's very worried about you. I'm gonna give you one.
Another
new taste.
lizard.
I never go back on my promise. Your hero Chisha's on the hunt.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I don't want to. I don't. Do I have to fight? Let's do it. Oh, I did press the wrong thing.
No hesitation. Strike from the shadows.
Okay. That was simple enough. Is it dead? It's not dead. It's just lying on the floor. It's just having a little lie down. I can absorb it. Let me absorb it. They're just gonna let me absorb them now? Like it's not weird?
Can you reenact what you did before?
I don't have the feeling of being pushed like I did before.
Maybe you can only absorb the powerful ones with your body. Or does it have to be a certain type of tacit discord? Or maybe we should give your terminal a whirl. Yay! It worked!
Oh,
I've
I did
never
it.
seen a gourd quite like yours before, but it sure.
Equip an echo to unlock a new skill. Oh yeah, okay. Select an echo to equip. Equipped. Transform into Stonewall Bracer and change forward. Charge forward. Successful hits grant a follow-up strike and shield. Okay. Alright. I'll take it.
Your terminal's
Now I got a
different
new
look,
power.
but the functions are pretty much the same.
Oh! That's me. That's crazy. Okay. We got a new power, guys. That's what the echoes do. Oh, what's this? What is this? I want to use my new thing. Oh! What did I do? I got myself into a fight with many people. Oh my goodness, there's many. There's many. There's so many. There's so many.
Power is upon us.
Oh. Why are there so many? I didn't mean to do that.
One with the sounds.
I can't do this on my own, surely.
Let me be your blade. Storm, hear that command. I'm okay.
I absorbed a ball, Echo. What is this?
Hi.
Do I fight them?
Swift and resolute.
Oh, I guess I do fight them. Okay. Oh, I just turn into a stone thing and defeat them. That is awesome. Alright, absorb that as well. Flame? Okay. MC to see my new one. Select Yang Yang, select Echo. Press auto crit. Oh. I can equip this for her. Oh wait, what? Am I battling someone? Hold on. I'm not defeat. Did I not defeat them? Where am I going? Oh, they're here. I'm very low on health. How do I get health?
Strike from the shadows. One with the sounds.
Okay. Now can I do this? Auto crit. Apparently not. Apparently I'm still in a battle. How do I get health? Oh! I didn't mean to press that. I killed an animal! I killed an innocent animal! How do I get health? Maybe if I eat something? Is it this? Which one do I use? Oh my gosh! You can only heal at towers? Oh, hi, Sydney. Sorry. Thank you. That's helpful. But I don't know what a tower is. Redeemables, but I don't have those yet. Oh, okay. What's a tower? Is that a tower? That thing in front of me? I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight you. Leave me alone. Yes, it is my first time. My friends were like bugging me to play it, and I was like, I have exams, but then I give in. So here we are. I'm guessing you played it. Oh, is this a tower? Is this a tower? Oh no, it's a beacon. Oh, what the hell? You don't get the first one too. Oh, okay. So I just have to walk around with this little health. Don't forget you can press 2. Oh, true. She has much more health. She's very pretty. Okay, so now I return to... Okay, keep going. Yay! What is this? H. Storm will move to the next location when you approach them. Follow them. Oh, where did they go? Oh, they're this one.
Speeding up.
I accidentally killed a rabbit. Oh my gosh, thank you for the follow. I'm slaying. I'm trying. I'm a bit lost with these type of games. I mean, I did play Genshin Impact, but I wasn't very good at it. So, what did I get? What's this? Did I do something with this thing? Hello, agent. Welcome. I don't want to fight that. Do I have to? Do I have to fight? Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna do well. This is not gonna go well. I'm telling you right now. I'm not good at the fighting parts. I just wanted adventure. I don't... Back. I got this echo. How do I do it? Keep going to your okay. Hold on. Oh, did I do it? Oh, I did it. Okay. Okay. So this thing, what did this do? Or is this just like a waypoint thing or like a check mark? I didn't really read what it said. Oh, my objective. Okay, okay, I'm going. I want to collect all these things. Can I absorb this? Oh, I can. Oh, it's just a rock? Why is it glowing like that then? Ooh, this is cool. This one is pretty. I'm just gonna keep going to the town, the city. Oh, is that the city? It looks very big. How far through the game have you got, Sydney? This game also has like co-op. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. Which is what I want to try and grind for. Because basically the story is I used to play Genshin Impact because my friends, the same one who told me to play this, played it. But by the time I had like got to the level I needed to be, she like had moved on to another game. So I never got to play with her. But now I get another chance at that. Maybe like 5 hours in, so not too far. Oh, okay, okay. Well, we're only an hour or so in right now. But it is getting late here, so I don't know how much we'd be able to get through today.
Rover?
They're very pretty though. I do like the art design. Hello, Shake. Oh my gosh, Cat, hi. Thank you for redeeming a daily gold coin. Oh.
My dearest.
Who is this?
Seed of fate.
I like her. I like her outfit. I don't know if I'm gonna like her though. She seems a bit scary. How's it going? It's going well, thank you. We're just trying out this new game. Oh my gosh, hi Cat. Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks for the luck, Sydney. I appreciate you. And thanks for the help. I would have been so lost. I'm doing well. I've just been doing revision today and then I kind of gave in to one of my friends asking me to play this. So here I am playing it. Thank you for the follow, Shake. You've been seeing more and more people playing this. Yes, I know. It literally just came out like yesterday or the day before or something. I have a lot of friends who play these types of games, and so they've been bugging me, and I was interested, you know. But I didn't want to play it alone. That's why I'm streaming it so that we can experience it together. Not the best. I'm not very great. When it comes to fighting, I'm awful. Like my character's health is so low right now. You've never heard of this? Is it an adventure story kind of game? Yes, literally is an adventure action story game. You're interested, just haven't installed it yet? Oh my gosh, get it. It's free on Epic Games. I did struggle launching it, but then I just watched a YouTube video that helped me. But you have to like make sure you get the game's actual like launcher, because you can't like launch it through, like you can install it on Epic Games and it will install, but then you have to like launch it through its own thing. I think it's like a Genshin type game, right? Yes, it's very similar. Literally the design and everything, the aesthetic kind of looks quite similar as well, but also the concept of the game. I did used to play Genshin. I've said this like a million times now, but I didn't really play much of it more recently. So it's nice to see a new one come out, and we can try this one. But yeah, I have not really streamed games like this before. It also is giving me a bit of like Zelda vibes, which I play on the Switch, which is why I haven't streamed that either. And my friend actually lent me her card of it. You played Genshin before. It's mega cool. Yeah, it is very cool. If you like Genshin, you'll probably like this game as well. Because it's very similar.
Shall we go grab a bite?
But just like Genshin, I'm awful at the action in this game. Like when I was fighting, I just get so stressed. So that's interesting for me anyway. You play lots of Souls like games. Lol. Those are Souls? Souls-like games? What are Souls-like game? You know, I'm really bad at like genres of games, so yeah. Have you ever tried playing have you ever played Code Vein? No, I don't think so. Oh, Dark Souls. Okay, yeah. No, I've not played that either, and I don't really know what it's about, but I'm guessing it's similar vibe because a few other people who came into stream before said the same thing. Like it's very similar to Dark Souls. But no, I haven't played Code Vein. I don't think I've even heard of it. What is it similar to this or? Okay. Let's focus on the task at hand. I should get my body checked up. We should visit the city hall. Sounds
To
good.
return to the academy.
Let's just go and have something to eat. Maybe it'll help my health. Code Vein is an anime Dark Souls, basically. Oh, okay, okay. I didn't,
The anomalies of the gorgeous
I don't think I've heard of it.
the resurgence of that tacit field, and the many wave-worn phenomena occurrences. I should report them in time.
Then I'll go submit our report and prepare the documentation needed for Rover's audience with the magistrate while I'm there.
Documentation sounds like a lot of work. What about me? Okay. What about me?
Guess I'll take Rover over to the Nexus Tower for registration first, and we'll just hang out for a while. We
Okay.
invited Jinjo and all. She can't be left standing outside the city hall with nothing to do. Hospitality is our local specialty, you know.
Then I'll leave you in Shizia's care, Rover. Is that all right with you? I'll give you a call once the paperwork is done.
Okay.
Leave it to me.
I'll send the branch of Resin Medical Science a notice. We need to conduct a thorough physical examination on you to make sure
I
you're
just need
fine.
some health. And I'll be
Visit the
fine.
academy after your audience if you have no other plans.
This one's got my attention. I just got home from work, so sitting down for a minute before any gaming. I seen your link on Twitter, so I had to. Oh, thank you! A lot of people have been coming from Twitter, and it's been really nice to meet a bunch of you guys. But yeah, you definitely try out the game if it's something you're interested in. And I'm guessing you're from America because everyone who's come in my stream today has been like, I'm just at work, and I'm like, oh, it's like midnight here in the UK. But yeah, I hope you had a good day at work. Now you can just relax. Is it free? Yes, it is free on Epic Games. You're American? Yes, I thought so. The time zones are very different. Thorough examination, the academy.
The unique nature of your condition requires specialized treatment only available in the Huashu Academy.
Oh yeah, it's early. Is it still early in America for you guys? Is that what you mean?
Body is bound to arouse the interests of many researchers, myself included.
Baizhi, I think your last sentence could be worded better.
I see.
Many of my folks are in the UK or Australia or New Zealand or some. Oh yeah. I got so many friends from different time zones on Twitch. They're literally everywhere. No, same. A lot of my friends are all from like America or like Canada, like that way. So our time zones are very different. And then I only have like a few friends that live in the UK. You're on the East Coast. I think someone else mentioned they were also from the same time zone, same place, East Coast. It's 7:30 for one where you are. Well, it is 12:31 a.m. Mine are mostly in Asia. That's pretty cool. I'm actually half Filipino, so that is pretty cool. I think I have like one friend who actually just recent, like not friend, but like someone I know, who streams. She just moved to the Philippines, which is where I am from.
You guys done
Which is pretty cool.
What's the holdup? Let's move. Then I'll have more time to.
Those that are like on similar time zone to me, they're still like an hour off of me though, because they live like in Europe, like Germany or wherever it was. You're actually waiting for midnight because my friend from Malaysia is going to go Gears of War with me. Oh, is that a game? I feel like I don't know what that game is, but it does suck though when you have friends from different time zones. You have to wait and wait until they're like awake. I know a lot of Pinoy streamers. Oh my gosh, well I'm another one. Hello. I'm only half though. But that's, yeah, I'm still Filipino, so hi.
We've got loads of fun in Jinzhou. We can go watch lion dances, hero plays, stand-up shows, and then maybe the martial championships.
Yeah, always being awake.
Tons of different treats to
I
try.
feel like I'm always awake as well, but I don't really have an excuse. My sleep schedule's really broken, and that's why I'm like streaming right now is not even like that much for me because I'm normally awake anyway. Me too, a few of my good friends are in the Philippines. Oh, yes, the Philippines is a great place. Okay. Maybe I should have said I was gonna go to the town, like to the officer person because I wanted to speak to them, but it's fine. It was nice meeting me. It's nice meeting you as well. It's been great. Twitter's been great for meeting new people, honestly. I've met a lot of new people on there. And I love when they come in and they're like, I saw you on Twitter. And I'm like, oh my god. I post so much shit on Twitter, though. You probably just clog up your pages. This place is pretty. Oh my gosh, I just realized we are 3 followers off of 400. What the heck? Oh, we get to play her as well now? Question mark? She's like part of our little crew now? Oh, she is. And we can like equip an echo for her. Let's give her this one. I don't know what this does. Oh, hey, it works, right? But it's good shit. Let's go. Wait, what? What shit? I forgot what it said. I got so distracted. Oh my god, I'm actually so... Oh! Oh no, I don't want to equip all of them. What the heck? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. How do I go to my other characters? Oh, we can play as all of them now. We got her, and we got her, and we got her. But our health is really low right now. Just hit 500 on Twitch the other day. Now I have to play Disney Dreamlight Valley. Oh my god, Disney Dreamlight Valley! I love Disney Dreamlight Valley. I normally stream Disney Dreamlight Valley actually. Just today we're trying something new, but yeah, I normally play DDV. It's very fun. You're gonna enjoy it. Will it be your first time playing? My goodness. I'm just gonna take a photo for Twitter because I just realized we're so close to my follow goal and I'm crazy. What you post on Twitter is like, oh yeah, I post so much random stuff, but I mean, yeah, sure, it's kind of entertaining, I guess. Chat made me because I play lots of horror, so they wanted something I wouldn't normally play. Oh my gosh, you play a lot of horror games? That's crazy. I did like when it was Halloween, I did a whole week of just horror games, and I think it actually burnt me out. Like, I was so scared. Oh no, we're having an ad. Go get some water and snacks, guys. You just retweeted me too? Oh my gosh, thank you. Ads, yes. I'll wait. I'm just writing my tweet anyways. I'm playing new Wuthering Waves. Wave emoji. Oh my gosh. I've been using so much emoji since using Twitter. Like every tweet, every single emoji I can tap my fingers on, honestly. Okay. And yeah, I can't really focus on many things at once. Hope you can drive a little more traffic. Oh, thank you, Shake. I will be sure to. I already follow you. Okay, calm. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Thanks, guys. What am I doing? Oh, am I still not like in the village? Ooh. How come the guys look so fucking normal and I'm just here with my fucking thighs out? That's not a piss take. Oh! We did it. Okay. Tap to navigate. Let's go. Press J to see my quests. Head to the Nexus Beacon. As the city lights twinkle, friendly faces beckon you to join them in the bustling border town. Immerse yourself in prosperous yet tranquil ambience. Oh, fan service cells. Yeah. Oh, I didn't want to. Oh, what's happening? Okay. See, like, how normal this guy looks. What is happening? My friend's a seasoned traveler. Have you seen Stellar Blade? No? I'm gonna search it up. Stellar Blade. Oh! Right. Of course. Of course, I don't know what I expected. Is it the girl with like long black hair? That is, yeah. Maybe this will be my cosplay. Jokes. I'm not wearing that. Oh, her name's Eve. Is this a beacon? Can't I just, like, activate this beacon? Oh, I can. Wait, I'm Union level 3. Oh, I'm level 3, guys. Oh, I'm getting distracted. Let's just go to this beacon and then we'll come back. The game has amazing combat. Well, I'm not great at combat. But, so it may be amazing, but I don't know how well I will play it because I'm so bad at that. Okay, this is where we're going.
Jinzhou's Nexus Tower. Exactly. Let me see. Think of it as Jinzhou's largest service station or an integration hub. It's something along those lines. I'm not much of a tech person. Long story short, it's a navigator, a defense system, and a regional information center all in one enormous
What messages
package.
you're having fun? Can I really tell your sweetheart? Oh, thank you.
The smaller ones we ran into earlier are resonance beacons. Data is shared.
I
between
just try and
beacons.
be myself, like as much as I can be.
Your map's data will be relayed to your terminal. Pretty nifty, huh?
Like recently, like while Twitter's great for meeting friends and stuff, I've been seeing a lot of stuff on there and it's just been making me feel really like demotivated and like, why am I bothering? Like there's some people out there that just are questionable. But I just try not to be like that and I just try to be myself because at the end of the day, those people that are being like somewhat questionable will expose themselves. While me, I will just always be myself and I have no bad intention. Like, yeah, cool, I'm affiliated, but I literally I don't want people to like use their money unless they really want to. Like, if they really hate ads. Like, I had a friend, he used to always sub to me because he hated ads. And even though he wasn't even watching me, he just would sub because he hates ads. And I was like, okay, fair enough. That's your choice. But I'm never going to be like, you need to sub for me. And like, I'm moving to a flat, like my own flat that's not university accommodation anymore. But I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I need this many subs because I need to pay my rent. Like, I'm never going to expect my community to support me in order to pay my rent. Like, if you send me money, then it's most likely for me to improve my setup. Because right now I'm playing on a gaming laptop, which is why sometimes it lags. So that any money that I do get is going to go towards a PC potentially, so that I can actually run my stream smoothly, or a new camera. Because while this one is way better than my first one, I know that my quality can be better. Talking about quality, I forgot to change something on my settings, so my VODs are going to be very blurry, but that's fine, it's whatever. At this point, I don't know what to do. But yeah, just do yourself a favor, never post anything about graphic designs. You will get flooded with bots and scammers. That already shows you're a good person. Just be you and good things will come. Did I post about graphic designs? I don't think I did. I mean, I personally make all my own things, and I've actually been considering making some to like sell or give out on my coffee, because I like to make designs and stuff, and I can make it like a decent price or even free for some of them. So I don't like those bots of scammers. They like, when they come in, I'm just like, wow, so what's wrong with mine? Because I make all my stuff. Although I am thinking about buying some widgets, like, you know, my like labels and stuff. I made that myself and I like it, but it's like I could get nicer ones, honestly. And the chat, like my chat bubbles, I like the chat bubbles, but I saw these really cute ones on Etsy, but they were like £17. But yeah, good things will come. I hope so. I try and put as much positivity out there, but sometimes I feel like life still doesn't like me. I don't think so, but one post and they'll smell blood. Yeah, it looks fine to me. Oh, thank you. I've seen some people's cameras be like so HD. Mine's very much budget camera. But I know my settings, like my VODs and stuff. I don't know why the settings, like my VODs were looking so ugly when I was editing them for clips. They look so ugly. But yeah, okay. Oh, there's like a little pathway that tells me. This was not glowing. This thing did not show up before. Right? Oh, these are kids. How am I wearing this next to kids? Everyone else is wearing such normal clothes and I'm just here wearing this. Healing finished. Oh, I've been healed. It took me a long time to get set up going the way I wanted. Yeah, I know it's going to take time. Especially I've been moving a lot. Like when I started streaming, I was... Oh, we unlocked a bit of map. Let's go. Ah, what did I do? What did I say? Oh yeah, when I started streaming, I was doing it at my boyfriend's like housing accommodation that obviously we had to move out of when summer came, because when it's like summer, I don't know if you guys, I don't think it's the same in America, but each year we have to move out of wherever we're staying and then move into another place. So that's where I started streaming, in his old house, which was a tiny room that I like moved into because I couldn't live at home with my parents, which is a long personal story. And then I moved to this other... Then I was streaming a bit when I did go home. I was streaming a bit in my parents' dining table. And then we moved to this other room in the uni, which was like a big room. And me and my boyfriend had our own desks. And it was fun. But then we had to move from there. And now here I am on this tiny, tiny desk, by the way. It's so tiny. With a mirror behind me that I have to cover. So definitely not the setup I want, but it works. And this setup I have right now is probably my favorite out of all of the ones I've had, especially now that I have my second monitor and everything. But hopefully in the new flat, I'll be able to decorate everything how I want and have stuff on the back that is more aesthetic than a freaking blanket and my sink. That is a sink, by the way, guys. Yeah. But I'm just grateful that I'm able to stream in the first place, you know, because it's something I enjoy. Okay, what's this? Injured or down resonators can rally at the resin. Okay. Oh, that's why we got healed. Who has the most health? This one has the most health. She has like barely any health. Okay. Take the elevator to reach the city hall. It's becoming nighttime. Oh, there's someone called Mulan. Hello, welcome to... Now introduce the usage of... Oh, okay. Just place your terminal... Oh. Okay, we already did that though. You gonna do a few things? Okay. No worries. I'll be here.
I have the arrangements in place. Rover, you can come visit the magistrate at any time.
I mean, my setup is in a bay window at the moment because we have a moldy game room, but you're doing great. Oh my god, no. Is that what happened to your room? It got moldy. Bro, I have trauma. Like, there's actually mold in my uni room, but I can't do anything about it because the uni needs to sort it. But then they also get angry when we have mold, even though it's not our fault. It's just the rooms are not very well designed. But, hopefully you can get that sorted. But either way, as long as you're able to stream and do what you want, then I think, you know, obviously everyone has their dream setup, but it's fine as long as it works, you know. But thank you. It's definitely been a journey, and bear in mind as well, I have been doing this for almost a year, so it doesn't happen overnight. Basically, when we bought the house, there was damp and mold he wasn't sure about, so we gotta sort it out. Lol. Oh, did you guys just move into the house? But yeah, definitely ask about it and stuff, because honestly, I wouldn't know what to do either.
Do you mind bringing Rover over to the city hall?
I'm going to the city hall already. What do you mean? I don't like this angle. Oh, okay. Press M to open the map. Oh, fast travel. Where am I fast traveling to? Why? Why did it make me go back to... Oh my god. What was the point of that? I thought I was going to be able to customize my character. But I guess it's not one of those, is it? I love customization. Yeah, you've been here for like 3 months now, as it's your first house. But we got money from the surveyors as they didn't find it. Oh, that's good. At least you got something from it, and you can probably use that to like go towards getting rid of it, hopefully. But that's awesome that you guys got your first house together. That's so nice. I'm very excited for potentially when I get a first house. At the moment, we're doing a first flat, but renting is gonna be probably the worst thing for budgeting. But we don't have a choice. You're getting ferrets instead. I need to see them.
Ew. First time seeing such a crowd in front of the city hall.
I was surprised too. I've never seen so many non-staff personnel here before.
Are they all here for an audience with the magistrate?
Most of the people here have applied for an audience, but I heard that.
Yeah, you're being animal parents. That's so cute. Ferret mom and dad. I messaged my friend saying that there's lots of boobs in this game, and my other friend was like, "Boobs, you say?" Because she just downloaded it as well. They were born like 2 days ago, as it's my workmate that has them, so we have to take them in 10 weeks. Oh my gosh! Wait, you're legit getting ferrets? That's so cute and original and like unique. I've not really heard of many people adopting ferrets before.
Most people were advised to leave by the magistrate's bodyguard upon sending in their applications. The ones staying here are either trying to apply for some other people or just too stubborn to leave.
Well, when you do get them, I expect lots of pictures.
The few that made it inside said it only took one freezing look from Lady Sunhua, and they were compelled to leave.
Damn.
What kind of description is that? Sounds like they've met some snake-haired lady and got turned into stone.
Who? Oh, that's Medusa. Who's
She's the
Sanhua?
magistrate's personal bodyguard.
Oh. Very female heavy, I see. There will be many. Oh my goodness. Oh, many pictures. I don't know why I imagined like many ferrets. Unless you are getting many ferrets, and that would be okay as well. Making them their own Twitch. Oh my god, instead of a webcam for yourself, get a webcam for the ferrets.
Oh, I've heard of her before. She's the all-round Death Glare / Terminator Ice Beauty. That's what the rumors say, at least.
Okay, perhaps the magistrate is not here yet.
Small chance she's not in the city hall, but it's very unlikely for her not to be in Zhengzhou. Or rather, it's nearly impossible for the magistrate to leave Zhengzhou at all. With her busy schedule, it's already difficult to find any time off. In addition, as the magistrate of Zhengzhou, leaving the land under her jurisdiction without authentication is not allowed.
Okay.
Unless she's engaged on a business trip, or when Zhengzhou's safety is under threat.
Yep, there's gotta be something big if that's the case.
Okay, it's me they're waiting for? Why is everything about me? We're trying to think of names as we're having two, so at the moment we have hamburger and fries. Oh my gosh, I love that.
So this is the
That is such
true
a cute,
confidence of our
like, couple
Rover.
name.
I agree, though. So far, you've been ticking all the boxes in our magistrate's description.
Did we? Do I?
Sure it can.
Have you thought of something, Rover?
Perhaps the magistrate did not know who her guest was. I'm wondering why the magistrate wanted to meet her guest in person. She must have a reason for attracting all this attention. This one. She must have a reason. She's not doing it to avoid confusion for her guest. She should have anticipated the follow-up of the public message. Still, how does she decide who is her guest and who is not? I don't understand. Oh, I pressed the wrong one. That's fine.
Same here. Anyway, our magistrate's the best lead we have for now, no matter what she has in store for Rover.
What do you think, Rover?
Oh, I
Are
pressed the
you
wrong
worried about
thing.
your memories?
The loss of my memories don't bother me. I don't know what to do. What really matters is how I'll live my life and create new memories. I do want to remember. In that
How
case,
about meeting with the magistrate first? She
I
may
thought
have
that's what we were
answers
going
you're
to
looking
do.
for. We're not allowed to go with you.
Oh,
Kezia and I will be right outside the city hall.
um, okay.
We'll be
I have to go
waiting for
alone
you.
then.
That's right. We're not going anywhere. Just give us a shout if anything goes down. Wait, no, we won't be able to hear ya. Plus, they've got this rule about not yelling inside the city hall.
That's funny. She's funny. There's always a character like that that's a bit funny.
Magistrate's expecting. Go see for yourself. Everyone's been talking about it.
Alright, I'm the VIP.
Every guess is important.
Okay. go. Ooh. This is pretty. The city hall. Whoa, look at that. I want that tree. But a bit smaller, maybe. Like, what? Like one of those ones in like those terrarium glass things. Am I making sense? Probably not. Whoa, this place is cool. Let's have a look around. What's this? Who are you guys? Oh, sorry guys. You guys look pretty normal to me. Imagine this was like your home. And you have like these giant bamboo, I'm gonna say.
Please, follow me.
Oh, they were expecting me. Of course. Everyone else gets shut out, but me? Look how weird I look next to this normal looking woman. Well, of course you're VIP because you're amnesia victim. Literally. I don't know what else I expected. Oh, I get to have a seat? Do I? How do I sit down? Oh.
Lady Sanhua will be with you shortly.
She looks normal. It's her. She still has big boobs. Look at them. Oh, is this Lady Sanhua? Ooh. Ooh. What's happening? She's reading me. She's reading me.
Pleased to make your acquaintance. I apologize for the delay. My name is Sam.
Her outfit is a sleigh, right?
I regret to inform you that Madam Magistrate is currently away. Prior to her departure, she instructed me to bring you these tokens and a welcome gift.
Ooh, we get a little welcome gift.
Madam Magistrate advised you to explore what these tokens represent during her absence.
Where is
This may
she?
help you acquire the information you desire sooner. I
Okay.
apologize for the inconvenience, but please rest assured she will be here to meet you in 3 days' time.
Will she though? Or will she die? Where is she? Why 3 days? How am I supposed to know what the top tokens represent? Where is she?
I cannot disclose her whereabouts at this time. Please trust me that she is eagerly looking forward to meeting you in person.
Did something
Partly
happen to her?
inability to provide a better answer.
Why does she sound like a
Madam
robot?
Magistrate has a task that she must handle alone.
Is
But
she a
has
robot?
never for one moment forgotten about her meeting with you. Not knowing exactly when you'd arrive, she had to leave without having the chance to welcome you in person.
Why did they know that I was coming? Why 3
She will
days?
require at least 3 days to complete her current task. The
Okay.
magistrate wanted to assure you that in 3 days, by any means, she will return to meet you in person.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything I can do to help?
I'll be sure to convey your kindness to Madam Magistrate. Please accept my sincerest gratitude.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Magistrate does
Where is
hope
she,
to
though?
have your assistance, but there is no rush for a decision. She does not want to pressure you into anything you may not desire.
I want to know the ribbon physics, though, because ain't no way the ribbon in the back of her would stay on like that for real. It looks like it's gonna fall out. And how is it holding all that hair?
When it comes to these tokens, it is never her intention to confuse you with the puzzles. Instead, they should serve as clues that lead you toward the truth.
Really?
The magistrate deeply regrets not having the time to deliver her messages.
She doesn't have time for me, then maybe I don't have time for her.
We value your presence far more.
You know,
than
I
you
just
imagine.
washed up on the land. Why do I
For any
suddenly have to
additional
do this?
information about you.
Super clean, literally. Look at it. But yeah, if she doesn't have time for me, then why do I have time for her? Like, I just washed up on the beach. I don't remember my name. And I'm suddenly here to do everything for them because they can't seem to do it themselves. How were you certain I was a guest?
Since Madam Magistrate is currently away, I cannot make the final confirmation on her behalf.
But you just gave me the gifts, so you must know something.
You are truly exceptional.
Oh, okay. I heard many people were politely asked to leave. Politely. She got other amnesia victims. Yeah, is this like a regular occurrence?
Regarding that,
Yes, regarding that. What did you...
my eyes can see the frequencies of all living beings.
Oh.
Or rather, those frequencies are the only thing I can see.
Aw.
You share the same frequency with Madam Magistrate.
What does my frequency look like? The same frequency? Same frequency?
Apologies. My description was not accurate. Both you and Madam Magistrate look undistorted to me.
Oh.
In my eyes, you appear the way you are.
Okay. What do the frequencies of others look like then?
They all look different.
For some reason, you can tell doesn't want to continue this topic. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. I just want to know what's going on. That's so hard.
May I have your terminal for a moment?
What do you want with it? My terminal.
I need your terminal for access pass authorization. In the meantime, I will configure the latest utility modules for you. Madam Magistrate thought you might need it.
Okay, I guess I have no choice. I waited a moment.
The utility module on your terminal has been upgraded to the latest iteration. Now, all the utilities, including sensor, levitator, and grapple, should be fully functional.
Levitator and grapple.
You are now granted unlimited access to all regions in Jinzhou. I have sent your terminal ID to every border pass and residence beacon. You will only need to display your terminal ID or activate a beacon with your terminal for entry. You are free to visit any part of Jinzhou.
And that includes the city hall, so no more annoying paperwork.
Yes, including
Oh, I
the
can
city
go in the
hall.
city hall.
You have also, may I ask, have you decided your place of residence in Jinzhou?
No,
If not,
what does that mean?
Madam Magistrate has arranged accommodation for you in advance.
Oh.
Here in the city hall.
I get a room. Home sweet home. Well, sweet, here I come. That won't be necessary. I have other plans. Do I have other plans? Or do I take the room? Maybe if I take the room, I can snoop around a little bit and find out what's going on. I think we should take the room. Otherwise, we might be homeless. Home sweet home.
I will lead you to your room if you need.
That won't be necessary at the moment. I have friends waiting outside. That won't be necessary at the
Understood.
moment.
We will be ready to accommodate you anytime.
Okay. That's cool. Okay, I got given a black fruit, a leaf, a small device, and sugar puff. Okay. A round pearl-shaped candy ball hidden inside a simple sweet wrapper. A finely crafted small device. And oh, okay. Hello. Welcome in. Oh gosh, I'm gonna absolutely butcher your name, but Kakumi. I could be saying this wrong. But hello. Welcome. We're playing the new Wuthering Waves. We've just spoken to the city hall person, the magistrate's bodyguard, got given some gifts, and now we're heading out. Our character's outfit is questionable. No, I got it. Okay, cool. I'm pretty... Oh! I'm used to pressing E to do stuff, but yeah, I'm pretty bad at pronouncing people's name. That's what we love to see. Yeah, everyone has said that. It's very, very similar to Genshin. Literally, like the same kind of concept. Like our characters lost their memories, blah blah blah, and then you gotta go do stuff and quests. Very similar, and the art style is very similar as well.
Rover! It took you so long. What gives? Was our magistrate a chatterbox?
Interesting, yeah, it's very interesting. It just came out actually on Epic Games. If that's something you play, these type of games.
So Madam Magistrate's not in the city hall.
What's going on? Why the long face, Yang Yang? I'm glad I was finally able to stop by, Hero. I know, yes. I haven't been streaming much, so it's probably just not me not streaming. But I also don't normally stream this late. I have never had the pleasure of being able to. That's okay. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Hi, Raptor! Oh my gosh! Hi, Raiders! Hello, everybody! How are you guys doing? How was your stream? Welcome in. Hi, everybody. I'm Kim. I'm small streamer from the UK. I'm just playing a new game that came out called Wuthering Waves. Hi, everybody. Thank you for redeeming your daily gold coin. Oh my gosh. Your community is so sweet. I love the little like messages. The dinos have arrived. The dinos have arrived. Hey, it was so good. Thank you. How's yours going? Mine's going well. We're trying out this new game and we haven't really got that far into it yet. But yeah, we're just figuring it out, honestly. But hello, everybody. So great to meet you all. I hope you all had a great time watching Belle. Can I call you Belle? Or what do you want me to call you? Actually, let's specify that first. I'm so cute. Oh, stop it. I'm just very happy to see you all. Thank you. Oh my god, wait. I realize we don't have any mods in here. So let me just do this myself, okay? Oh, it's in caps. Belle. I don't want to spell this wrong. Velociraptor. Or how am I spelling this right? Did that work? Yay, it did! Okay. Look at the little dimples. Thank you. Yeah, you can call me Belle, whatever you prefer, to be honest. My name is Belsie. But people call me Vels. Okay. And Raptor as well. I respond to anything pretty much. Okay, cool. Welcome, Raiders. Yes, welcome, everybody. Hi, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you as well, Ark. Welcome. Well, I don't know what else to say to you guys. I don't normally play this game. It just literally came out. Wuthering Waves. You might have heard of it. A lot of people apparently been playing it recently. I call her mummy. Oh, I don't know if I'm on that. Not on that level yet. But yeah. Normally I play just like cozy games. Sometimes I play some Valorant. Dare I say it? Sometimes I play some horror games. Just anything really that I fancy playing. At the moment is this. I literally just started it today. We're only 2 hours in. Literally the whole stream we've just been doing this. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. And what is this game about? So if you guys have ever heard of Genshin Impact, it's very similar to that. So our character here, her name, we called her Aria. She doesn't have her memories. It looks pretty. Yeah, it's very pretty. Almost as pretty as you. Oh my gosh, damn it. Yeah, we were just doing Val, got my rank up. Oh my gosh, yes! What rank are you now then? I think I saw that you were live, but I don't think I was able to watch because I've been so busy today because of exams. But yeah, I saw your content on TikTok. You're so good. You're actually so good at Valorant. Diamond 3. Oh my god! Yay! That's so good. I'm bronze. But honestly, this game is cute and the characters are cute. I mean, they're very the design is very questionable in the way that like their skin showing a lot. So I'm a bit like I don't know how I feel about that. But they're cute and yeah, so we don't have our memories. We're on a quest to try and figure it out, but there's also some stuff happening. We just spoke to the magistrate's bodyguard because the magistrate isn't here, so that's what we're like kind of trying to figure out what's going on. You're just lucky. No, you're not. I've seen your clips. You're skilled. You have to be skilled to play how you play. But yeah, I don't play that much Valorant on stream anymore, but I do love a good cozy game. The game sounds super cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool so far. We haven't actually explored that much of the map yet, but it's very pretty. You gotta go, but it was nice to see you. You look lovely. I love the background. Oh my gosh, thank you. My whole background is so makeshift, but it was nice to meet you as well, Ark. I hope to see you again soon. I'm too nice. No, I'm just telling the truth. I do want to warn everyone though that these two, they yap a lot. So when I click this, they're gonna start yapping to me, and I'm not gonna be able to like focus on two things at once. But basically, we just found out the like, what do they call it? Like, kind of like the leader of this city is not in the city, but she normally is always at the city. So something's wrong. Oh my gosh! Thanks for the follow, Ark. I hope to see you again soon for sure. So now I'm gonna ask Yang Yang, which is the blue one, what she thinks is going on. Oh my gosh, thank you for the follow, Cat! Guys, I'm literally so close to my follow goal, like, I'm so happy right now. We love a good yap, don't worry. Yeah, I always yap. But you're gonna lurk anyways. Oh yes, of course. You've just been streaming, girl. Go look after yourself. And thank you so much for bringing your community to me. I appreciate it. Okay, so we're about to get a whole yap here in our ear. You're so sweet, honestly. Oh, thank you. I try to be as nice as I can be. If someone's nice to me, I'll be nice to them. Yeah. Anyways, let's see why the long face, Yang Yang.
It sure is.
Shizia.
Oh, she's not yapping. She's actually concerned.
Increasing
Oh no,
tacit
she's yapping.
fields, uncannily powerful tacit discords, and now our magistrate's absence.
Okay, so that's what's basically been happening. We've been fighting, and you'll soon realize that I am so bad when it comes to combat.
Plus, the mysterious Rover.
Yeah,
Afraid.
me. They call me Rover because they don't know my name, and I don't know my name. She's afraid. Oh no. The leader might be in danger. There's no need to worry before that. What should we get for dinner? What should we do next? What should we do next? That's like a reasonable thing to say.
You in 3 days, and she left these tokens for you. Said you can look into what they represent while she's away. Do you have any plans, Rover?
Gonna put you in the background, have fun playing, thank you. Oh, thank you for the lurk, appreciate you. We've got an ad real quick, guys. Go get some water and snacks, and I'll see you on the other side. Nothing exciting will happen, I promise. Maybe... I don't think there's much for me to do. Let's investigate the items. There's 3-day vacation in my books? Nah, let's investigate the items.
Do you mind if we have a look at the tokens?
You showed Yang Yang? Okay, we showed the tokens. Come on.
So, what's so special about them?
Take the candy, take the small device. The small device. This looks
It
quite
seems
interesting.
Like a miniature sundial.
Ooh. A
It is
sundial?
a horological device that tells time by using sunlight's direction.
I do know what a sundial is. I don't know why I pressed that one. But
Sundials in Huanglong usually have marked lines for the 12 shichens in a day. And every shichen is 2 hours long, with
Okay.
some showing seasons or months. The design of this sundial looks on this sundial. Time seems to be represented by the 12 earthly branches
12
drawn on
earthly.
the outer ring of its surface.
Oh, these things.
And its inner ring shows the 4 symbols, each representing one cardinal direction. Generally, the teal long represents the east. The white tiger stands for the west. The vermilion bird
I
stands
can't
for the
tell
south.
which way is which. I
Finally,
can't lie
we
to you
have the
guys. I
white
don't
tortoise
know.
for the north. It seems the sundial is supposed to show both time and direction. But how can it work when there is not a compass attached?
Ugh, that requires
Yeah, that
way too much
does
brain
require way too much brain power. My brain. Oh, do I have to go through all of these? Okay, the candy.
A candy? Oh, I've had these when I was a kid. I think they were called sugar pearls.
There's like a dragon marking here, which is similar to like the sentinel that we saw
I
previously.
haven't seen anything like this in a while. Went out of trend, maybe.
It reminds me of my childhood. I still remember the taste. It was so sweet. I was really scared of getting my flu shots when I was little. And
Okay,
sometimes
they're
the
yapping.
nurse
They're
would
yapping
say,
so much.
"What does it mean as a token?"
I don't know what any of this means.
The
Okay,
color
a
of
leaf.
This leaf seems a bit odd. Can't tell what tree it is.
Yeah. It's kind of like a blue, dark blue.
I think I can feel something from it.
Bro is yapping.
It's too faint.
I can feel
Maybe
something,
it was
but
just my
not.
imagination.
Okay.
Sorry. I can't tell what kind of tree this leaf belongs to either.
That's fine. And the black fruit,
This
right?
is
A
a
mangosteen.
mangosteen
Oh,
fruit. Mangosteens are not native to Zhengzhou. They are usually imported by boat.
okay.
I think we can find. They're not always available for purchase, though. The frequent tacit Discord outbreaks can disrupt transportation and cause shortages. The Midnight Rangers have greatly improved the situation in recent years, but still.
Okay, that's all.
Xia and I share similar childhood memories of the sugar pearl.
Do you remember it too?
Do you remember it too, Rover?
No, I don't remember
When it
anything.
comes to candies, no one knows them better than the kids of Jinzhou.
Let's ask around. We should go find. Let's ask around. Okay. I'm gonna go ask these kids. I'm gonna go up to random kids and ask them. That's not creepy at all. Hello. The little girl shook her head timidly. After a tense moment of silence, the little girl seemed to finally made up her mind about a great sacrifice. She offered you her hand, revealing a small piece of candy. I don't have...
candy
Oh.
like that. But I've got this. It's really good. You can have one.
Thank you, but
The
why?
magistrate said we should be nice to every guest.
Aww. Okay. We got a new candy. Not the same as our last candy. But that is fine. Now I need to reach a suitable place to use a grapple. What? Here?
There's still some distance to the Huaxiu Academy. Let's see who reaches there faster.
Oh god.
Mom just installed some apps for you, remember? Just look for the one that's called Utilities on the terminal.
Okay. Utilities. Okay. How do we do that? Oh.
See? Just open the util. See?
What the heck? I'm gonna die. Oh, I fell in water. What? That was scary.
Just open. See? Just open.
You're
the
gonna go to bed and you
utilities,
have work
select
tomorrow,
the
but
grapple,
have
and there you go.
best
If you wanna
amazing
do
rest of your
something
stream.
like
Okay,
Jinzhou
no
Speedster,
worries, Courtney. I'll
you
see you
gotta
again
master the
soon.
grapple.
Have a good
Come on,
rest
give it a
and
shot, Rover.
shift tomorrow. What am I doing? How do I do it? Oh, it doesn't have to like grapple with anything. It just grapples onto the air. am I going? It's like Spider-Man. Woo! The cooldown's so long though, like you can't use it multiple times while in the air. So then you're just like gonna fall off or something. Crafting. Can I go upstairs? Here it is. Nope. Nope, that's not it. Here it is.
Oh, wait a sec. Someone's looking for me. Yeah? What? When did he disappear? Don't worry. It's alright. I'll be right there. Duty calls. Oops. Almost forgot. Can't be late. Sorry, Rover.
She's
Yeah.
leaving me?
I've got to head off for my shift. I'll join
Oh.
you right after I'm done, alright?
You got
If
work.
you need me, just shout my name. And I, the Jinjo Speedster, will be there in a sec. Well,
Oh, yeah?
you only need to send me a terminal message as you shout. Then anyway, I gotta go.
Okay.
Sure. Go do your thing. Rover, let's go inside.
Let's go inside, but I want to see what's going on over here. What is he doing? Oh, there's a beacon here. Let's go and get that so that our fast travel could be so much easier. Right. Let's go inside and see what's going on. Enter the academy. Oh, I always press E because I'm used to pressing E in Disney Dreamlight Valley, but it's F in this game. The wave-worn phenomena is believed to alter matter. Oh.
Lied to my message. She's probably busy in her lab.
Talk to
Over
more
there,
Tefi.
Mr. Mortefi from the Department of Safety. Baiju once mentioned him before. He might be able to help us get in touch with Baiju, but,
Why does he look
something
so...
was caught in
Why
the
does he look like
background.
this?
Anyway, let's
No,
run
you
after
missed the
shall we?
raid. No worries. Hi. Did you come with Val? I'll reintroduce myself. Hi, I'm Kim. I'm a small streamer from the UK. I play all sorts of games, but at the moment we're playing the new Wuthering Waves, and we're now talking to this fine man. Oh, thank you for the follow. You did come with bells. Oh my gosh, thank you for the follow. We hit our goal of 400 followers. I literally didn't expect to. I didn't even realize I was that close, but oh, thank you guys. And it's good to have you. Yeah, look at this fine specimen. Congrats, thank you.
What? You need something?
Oh, I think I need you. Maybe I just have a thing for this redhead. This redhead is doing a lot. I need to contain myself a little bit for a second. Well said, that was scary. Oh. Okay.
Apologies. Did I startle you?
Mr. Mortefi, please pardon our intrusion.
I have a boyfriend, behave. I know.
We're here to look for
Doesn't mean I
you.
can't look. Oh my gosh, hi assertive. My goodness, I'm literally just simping over some like pixels on my screen right now. But we good. We're trying out this new game, Wuthering Waves.
I see. I hope
Going
you
to the
followed my
doctor.
advice earlier.
Because we almost died.
Not at all.
I don't know what's
It
going
must have
on.
bothered you.
Oh,
Elijah should be in the data analysis room. I'll go tell her you're here.
Thank you, sir.
don't leave. He left!
Mr. Mortefi, a
Thanks.
renowned figure in the Department of Safety. He was born in the new Federation, and he joined the Huashu Academy a few years ago. I heard his talent is truly impressive. People say he's a
Okay, let's talk to this girl.
Here you are. The data we collected in the Gorges of Spirits has been submitted for analysis, and we'll have the results today.
Okay.
Any discoveries during your trip to the City Hall?
Yes, actually. The way they didn't even like animate it to show us giving the stuff, but it's fine. It's probably better that way so we don't have to pay for it.
I have a hypothesis about the sugar pearl, but I need to verify it first. If possible, I recommend conducting non-destructive tests of all these tokens you have.
That sounds simple and clear.
The first 3 tokens can be tested at my branch's laboratory. This miniature sundial will require radiographic testing, though. To access the necessary equipment, we'll need to file a request with one of the Tacitite Studies related branches.
Okay. Tacitite, that's a field more specializes in. Oh, is it? He specializes in that, does he? We can ask them about the other token too. Let's ask about the guy.
It's the branch of Tacitite Weaponry's head within the Department of Safety.
Ooh. Oh, he's back. I need to stop.
Give me the items to be tested. Anything else you need me to know, you can let me know now. You may retrieve your items in 20 minutes.
Why
and
is
the
he
analysis
so-
report will be ready 5 minutes after that. Take a route and you'll find me in the testing room.
He was like, can let me know now. Very demanding. Show him all of it. Can you show him all of it?
I don't see anything special with these items. Speaking of the sugar pearl, you all remember eating sugar pearls like this when you were kids?
I heard you weren't raised
I never
in...
had anything like this in my child. No, I'm from the New Federation.
Oh, he's wearing glasses? I didn't even realize.
I remember a nurse lady giving me a candy like that.
So, sugar pearls like this were distributed at hospitals, perhaps.
The sugar
Yes.
pearl might be a type of medicine. Its sweet taste would have made it more palatable to children.
Miss Baija, as a Huanglong local working at the academy, I suppose you already had an idea about what it is?
I do have my theory as to what it is, but it still needs verification. I wouldn't...
Seconded.
Oh, they yap so much, guys.
Actual testing, then.
It will take some time before the results are ready.
Shall we wait here at the academy, Rover?
We'll take a quick look around here. Oh my god. Hello, CP. You still here? I'm totally not simping over this fictional character. Okay, I need to have my body checkup. Gonna go stare at some Genshin women then. Bro, you don't even need to go on Genshin, you just need to look at the screen. Look at them. Look at what they're wearing. Coming in too late. GG. No. It's all good.
Now let's begin, if you're ready.
One moment, please. Can I ask you about...
Do you have any
What am I
questions
asking
before
her
we
about?
begin?
Do I have to do this? Was an echo again? Have you come across any other other similar cases?
Apart from the ancient legend Yang Yang mentioned earlier, I've never heard of anything like this. But if we look at it another way, we might finally be able to verify said legend once we figure out what really happened with your body.
My body.
Now let's begin, if you're ready.
Let's
Can
begin.
you try to manifest the Crownless's frequency without using your terminal?
Try my best. Okay, it seems like I can't.
I am not seeing the Crownless's data in your terminal. So it was indeed absorbed into your body. The Crownless's frequency energy was consumed by your body, leaving no trace behind.
Okay, so anyone who just joined, in a previous like fight scene, we fought one of like the bigger bad guys, and I tried to like consume it with my device, but it wouldn't work. So we were like, okay, let's just leave. But then when we were leaving, my whole body got dragged towards it, and I like consumed it into my body, and that's why I'm being checked right now, because
How did you manage to do that?
we don't know what's happening.
It's as though there's another mechanism within your body capable of absorbing frequency.
Will I turn into a monster? What kind of impact will it have on me? Does this have anything to do with my amnesia? Will I turn into a monster?
For resonators like you, such abnormal fluctuations in frequency typically lead to overclocking.
What is
When a
overclocking?
resonator's mental capacity is overwhelmed, they may lose control of their forte, causing an overflow of resonance energy. We have established a comprehensive overclock diagnosis process to accurately predict potential risks of overclocking.
I see.
Your waveform graph shows a remarkable level of stability, surpassing any resonator I've encountered. Your risk of overclocking should be minimal. You don't
Okay.
need to worry about that for the time being. To put
Okay.
it simply,
That's
it
not bad
seems
then.
like
We're not
another
gonna...
dimension or a creature hiding inside your body.
Ooh, get out. Something in my body sounds like I have a little universe within me. Why does this sound... Sounds like a cool terrarium, my dear. What? These are weird. But I low-key want to say this one.
A universe. That's a poetic and intriguing comparison. It seems we need a simulated combat to figure out what happened in your body.
A simulated
Please hold
combat.
your terminal tight and stay still.
Okay. What's gonna happen to me? Oh, where are we going? What the fuck?
Enemy's simulated training ground. Don't
Oh.
worry. Yang Yang and I will assist you. Please
Oh,
fight
man.
The simulated tacit discord.
I have to fight?
Please fight the simulated tacit.
Oh, I
discord
get to play
station
as
in
her
the
now. She's so pretty, guys. What is that? Is this her like little pet? Oh my god. So cute. Right, what am I doing? Defeat. Oh god. Oh goodness. Oh, what? I'm a wolf now? Did I change my thing, my ability?
One more time.
Oh god, I'm gonna try her power.
Stay vigilant.
Oh no, she does not do well, does she?
Transmitting frequency.
What's happening? Oh. Did I do that? What does T do? Oh, grappling hook. Oh, you can use the grappling hook while fighting. Oh, okay. So the Q is like the echo I put on them. Why does she have a wolf now? I swear I put a different thing on her, but okay, the wolf works too.
As Yotan had previously detected, your bodily functions are in good condition, and you seem entirely unaffected by the.
Oh my god, this is great. Very fitting. That was very, very fitting, wasn't it? I don't understand her powers. She doesn't actually hit them. Her pet does the damaging for me. I like that.
So it was not your resonance ability either. I suppose we'll do another round to fully test your potential.
Whoa!
The hour is upon us.
No, I pressed the wrong button. Oh. This guy's got an arrow. I don't really understand the combat, guys. But I kill them, and that's all that matters.
Let me be your blade. Synchronization. Let the winds roar.
I don't know.
Gathered all the data you need.
That was very perfect timing, by the way, Anu. That was very
Rover,
cinematic.
find the exit straight up ahead.
very cinematic having that play while I was fighting.
Rover, can you hear me?
Oh shoot.
The
I can't
colony's dead.
leave.
Something's wrong. Gotta be cautious. Now, where is the exit?
Is that my voice? I can't leave.
I'm
What?
back to the same spot again.
Oh man.
And this.
I can't jump.
What is happening?
What is happening? I can't do anything now. Oh! Oh!
Those tacit discord.
Nah. You're gonna go as well. You're gonna take points to work tomorrow. Oh, that's okay. You'll see me in either. Yes, of course, I'll see you soon. Don't worry. It was great timing. Yeah, yeah. Well, have a good rest of your night and have a good day tomorrow. I'm guessing I'm gonna have to fight this guy or something. I'm scared. Oh. Oh, she looks badass though. She looks pretty. Leave mother. Huh?
Rover! Rover! Thank goodness. You're awake.
I was standing up for the whole of that.
Just now. The connection
Good luck.
suddenly
Thank
cut
you.
off.
I apparently didn't have to fight, but it's alright.
Rover.
Oh, why are we just looking at
Remember
tits?
what you saw?
Do I remember what I saw? Oh, okay. I did remember.
Can you give us some more details?
Okay. An enormous moon fading in the center of a giant a giant
Tacit discord
yeah.
with a scythe. It doesn't sound like the crownless. Might be even higher ranked.
Oh god, why is it in my brain?
It's the first time we've run into anything like this since we put the training ground into use.
Oh, it was in the training ground, okay.
The Sonorosphere captures everything that once happened in a specific time and place, be it good or bad. We built this simulated training ground after the structure of Sonorospheres. Our goal was to extract pure remnant energy with the simulated Sonorosphere.
Okay.
Your arrival may have revived the abnormal frequencies we accidentally captured. Remnant energy sometimes gives rise to memory manifestations of sentient beings. I suspect it could have something to do with your unconscious mind. Such anomalies could have been hiding in the simulation, and they resonated with your subconscious. Or perhaps they were lifted from your subconscious in the first place. I'm afraid I can't give you a conclusion yet. Not until we've run a thorough analysis on the data collected.
I just realized in the 2.5 hours I've been streaming, I have not drank. That's so bad.
I'll also check the simulated Sonorosphere again to see what on earth happened to it. In terms of bodily functions, you seem to be in perfect health.
That's good at least.
All the data look quite good, but if you feel anything unusual, please come find me anytime.
I'll be nice. I'll say thank you. Resonate, blah, 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 weapon suit, okay. How do I open that? F3. Oh, this is so great. Oh, am I using it already? Do I have to use it? I only have one. I want to look around first. What is this? Okay, so this is the thingy that like you gamble for in a way. I don't know. I don't have anything for that. I could do the weapons, or I could do these are the starter characters, I think. But I don't want to use it yet. I want to make sure I'm choosing the right thing. Oh, I get to come over to this guy again.
Here's your sundial, intact as it was.
Mr. Mortefi, can we have the test results?
Simply put, it's hollow. Here, try tapping on it. It's not just a timekeeping tool.
Oh.
It's an intricate mortise and tenon puzzle box. This sundial is hollow with an inner compartment. We scanned it. However, it's missing a crucial component. We should be able to spin the wheels on the sundial once the right component is installed.
Impressive analysis. You're quite the expert. You're quite the expert.
I have some basic knowledge, but there is someone else who is more knowledgeable in automata mechanics than I am.
Okay.
It would have taken me this long if we were dealing with tacitite weapons. Install the missing part, then rotate the wheels to their correct positions, and you should be able to solve the puzzle and access the paper scroll. However, I still have no idea what the missing component should look like.
Shall we go ask the experts in this field? Maybe we can brute force it? No, we're not brute forcing it.
I can help you with this.
Oh, can you? Why did
Just
you?
need some time to think it over.
Okay.
One moment. I have an incoming call.
Yeah. Ooh.
What is it? You certainly are well informed. It's indeed beautiful data. Good taste. Well,
Rover, Mr. Mortefi's expression seems to have softened, don't you think?
Yeah, he looks like a purring cat now. He's surprisingly.
Amiable person, isn't he? We haven't even asked him to help us with assembling.
And he's already started working on it, and he just naturally led us a hand. I guess the academy people are just passionate about solving problems, and he already started working on
Mr.
it.
Mortefi needs more time. Maybe we should give Rover.
Okay, we'll give him
Let's come
space.
back later, shall we?
Okay, let's leave him to it. He's already working on it, so. Investigate the surroundings or talk to that guy. Well, I gave him space. No? Where even is he? He's disappeared. He's disappeared. What is this? Okay, right. Let's look around and then we can talk to him. Inspect. Just who on earth is this super important guest? Oh, are they talking about me? Why does the Department of Laboratory Evaluation work overtime every day? Oh, lol. What's in here? Am I allowed in here? Oh, I'm just jumping over stuff now. Oh, can I talk to this guy? Yeah, you. Wow, a visitor, not a client. This face is usually so boring. In other words, the Academy main library. Okay. Tell me more about the Academy. You're in luck because I'm here every day sorting out info. They've been working overtime. Okay. That's enough information. It's pretty impressive. Sure thing, buddy. What is this place? Oh my god, Yuki! Hi! I got so excited for a second. Yeah, ignore that. Hello! Have you started playing?
Rover? Please don't touch that. It's dangerous.
Oh, it's dangerous. Oops. You opened it? Does it work on your laptop? I was in the middle of our session. Of course you are. Are you still on Val? Oh wait, it's a bit late actually. A bit late for you, that is. You're mobile only right now? Oh, like you're on your phone? You just finished Val?
Rover.
That's fair. I'm gonna go talk to the guy. The guy's pretty fit. Although he's invisible right now. You don't have enough storage on your phone PC? No! Oh, you're playing it on your phone? I don't have storage on my phone to play games.
Yes, of course.
Why is he invisible?
Something you mentioned. Indeed, you just pointed out a blind spot in my thinking.
He's so good to look at. And he's invisible.
Workshop? That hellish place? Stop sweet talking me. I get it.
Heal tutorial girl? I have no idea what I'm doing. And my game seems to be broken. Like, why is he invisible?
Sorry for keeping you waiting. Let's get back to the sundial.
He's invisible! Stop talking to me.
Notice a tenon-based puzzle box.
Ooh.
The missing
Doesn't
component
he
in the
sound
middle
sexy at least? You can
fulfills
imagine
two entirely
what he
different
looks like.
structural requirements at the same time. Considering its entire structure, this component needs an automatic buckle that goes down on top of an embedded pointer. I'll draw up a design for you. The parts you'll need can be found in Jiang Li's workshop.
I have to make
I've already
something.
informed him about it. You'll only need to go fetch the parts in his place.
Oh, you're not coming
keeps
with
us
us. Ooh.
The union of labor is more efficient in getting things done. Besides, I would like to avoid stepping foot in Jiang Li's workshop ever again. The
Oh.
thought of that place brings me migraines.
Oh god, okay. Is it gonna be dangerous? It doesn't sound like a
These
pleasant
dreadful
place.
conditions, I can't agree more. How could he choose to work in such terrible condition? It's like willingly playing a score backwards.
I see. Shall we go and retrieve the parts now?
Okay. Why is he invisible? Bro, I wanted to show you. Oh wait, I was just in the workshop.
I mentally prepared myself for the worst, but this place looks
It's not that bad.
much better than Mr. Mortifi, though it is a
Oh,
bit...
I accidentally skipped a bit. Oopsies. Okay, this is what we need. Pick it up.
This should be it. It's quite a box full. Let's go back and show it to Mr. Mortifi.
Okay, maybe he'll actually show up this time and not be invisible. Then I can show you him. Nope, he's still invisible. Why? I have mail. Oh! You got a bunch of things. Oh, I didn't mean to mess up. Oh, I didn't even claim this stuff yet. Gaming experience issue compensation. Oh yes, I need compensation for the fact that this guy is invisible. You got a bunch of free stuffs. Let's go. Oh, I could have just pressed claim all. That is funny. I missed that. Okay. I don't understand the whole this whole page. I don't want to spend it on the wrong thing. I have 41 now. I don't want to spend it on the wrong thing, you know? So I would need help potentially. Can I leave the place and then come back? Because then maybe he will spawn. I don't know. I'm gonna ask Angel if he knows. Or if she recommends any. Alright, let's go back in here. And hope he spawns, because I want to show you guys. Is he here? He is! Yuki, look at this fine specimen of a man. He's got glasses on and everything.
Mr. Mortivy, we found the parts.
Good. Bring it to me.
The test results are in.
Ooh. The test results are in. I'm all ears. Found anything?
Mangosteen is just an ordinary fruit. It's suitable for regular.
Better than the Invisible Man? Yeah, definitely.
About it.
Oh my goodness.
From the purple leafy
I hope we can all
I
play
detected
this one
subtle
time
fluctuations
together.
in tacit discord's frequency from two distinct sources, but they were overlapping and difficult to distinguish. This is a rare occurrence. The scattered nature of these fluctuations rules out the possibility of them being left behind through contact. This is not an ordinary leaf, but it doesn't seem to be a tacit discord either.
Okay.
Based on the data we gathered, I believe it was sampled from an area struck with the wave-worn phenomena.
Oh. What is that?
Yes, the anomalies that occurred after the lament, including the formation of tacit fields, etheric sea, retroact rain, and gravity loss.
Oh.
These are collectively called the wave-worn phenomena. And the lament was the start of it all.
Okay.
As for the sugar pearl, it has been determined to be a type of oral vaccine.
Oh, that's why she got it when she went to the
This sugar
nurse.
pearl expired over 20 years ago. The low temperature storage life for this vaccine is about 2 years.
So it's out of date.
20-year-old vaccine. Could it be related to the children's epidemic in Zhengzhou 2 decades ago?
The archives in the academy should have information on the sugar pearl. The archives here are organized in a unique way. You can start by searching the keywords at the lobby terminal.
Okay.
Mr. Mortivy?
The missing pointer has been installed, and now the sundial should be complete.
Oh.
So, the discs are rotatable now.
Yes. Align the correct
He's
markers
so
with the pointer you just
clever.
installed, and then you should be able to open it.
Oh, we get an animation of them actually passing it to each other. That's crazy. The earthy branches represent the time. The 4 symbols represent the cardinal directions. Just force it open. What the fuck? I don't know. This
The
one?
earthly branches and 4 symbols. These symbols are related to the sexagenary cycle.
The what?
An intricate way of recording time in Huanglong. Nowadays, it is mainly reserved for calendars, numerology, and indexing, but it's falling out of daily use. Now, what kind of information could it represent?
It's the filing system. Most of Huanglong's libraries and databases still use
There's a lot of
this method to
information.
organize their
Oh,
archives.
we have an ad
Namely, the
break.
Grand
Get some
Libraries.
water and some food. I should probably drink some as well.
Exactly. Languages may evolve, names may change, but time remains constant.
that deep.
It's an elegant system indeed.
The Academy's public archives are organized in this manner too.
Okay. Oh, I didn't mean to press that. What did I press? Ugh. I need to stop just pressing F. Alright, let's investigate. Oh, we get to use this thing. Okay, let's do it.
I found it. It's
Oh.
located on the way
That was
shelf.
quick. That was very quick.
Mao Cheng Si. Wu Wei.
Look for
Provenance
clues. Sugar pearl vaccine. Okay. Is an acute infectious disease with no effective treatment, primarily affecting children under 6 years old. It is highly contagious with severe symptoms including fever, limb pain, and muscle atrophy. To combat this disease, a live attenuated guys, I can't read. A live attenuated vaccine has been developed and successfully passed phase 3 clinical trials on June 16 at 3 p.m. Oh, do I have to read the whole thing? Oh my god, why is it so much? Okay.
There are 2 photos here.
One photo shows a researcher led by a woman in her 30s. Everyone looks excited and happy. The other photo shows an infant in diaper with a slender hand holding a spoon with a sugar pearl in it, directed towards the infant. Oh my gosh, hi Tetra! How are you doing? Look for clues. Let's read here. Oh god, so much reading. I can't read this out loud, guys. You're good. Welcome. We are just playing Wuthering Waves. You finished the game already? Didn't it just come out? When did this come out? I thought it just came out like 2 days or yesterday.
If I remember correctly, Zhenzhou was established during a year of Wei. Several
Oh my
centuries
gosh, that's
ago.
crazy.
The Gorges of Spirits battle.
I don't have enough time in the day to do it like that because I have exams at the moment, so I couldn't play much until like now, and I wanted to play it on stream.
And the formidable tacit discord described here? I believe it is the Crownless.
You have every character -2? That is crazy. That you like sped ran it. Does that include the ones like from here? Oh, thank you for the follow. Does that include this stuff? Like the characters from here? Hi! It's Miso. Oh, hi, Miso! I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you doing? We're trying out this new game that came out recently. Like, literally yesterday or the day before or something. Yeah, well, can you tell me which one, like, to spend my thingies on? Because I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what this means. You know, like, when I played Genshin as well, I never really knew the best, you know? So if you have any tips, depends on who you like playing. Like, are you a gunner or close range? Honestly, I think maybe close range. How do I read about each character though? Oh, I figured it out. One and white woolly plushies. Oh my god, this is so cute. The game looks so cute. It is so cute, right? It's very much like Genshin Impact, the whole vibe. But I think there are obviously differences. Encore is adorable to play. Oh my gosh. It's badass. I do like her vibe. And she's pink and she has a little plushie. I think it's cute. But how do I do it then? Is it like luck based or like do I instantly like get her kind of thing? He's very squishy. This guy? What do you mean he's squishy? Apparently this girl is good to get. Yeah, I don't really know. I think there should be something where you can choose your first character. Where I can choose. Is it this one? Oh, it's this one. You can choose who to get. Because it says choice. This one says choice. Yes. But usually they're different, like, whoa. It uses a different currency than it's up. And what's this one about? 4 stars. Oh! This is the girl that, like, finds you. Oh! I can get him. He's an event character, very good. This guy? Yeah, oh. Lasting 17 days. Oh. Oh god, you gotta be wanting to play. Oh, you're gonna play now? Go for it. I'm gonna try grind to the level that we need to and then we can play co-op. Yeah, I don't know who I want to get. Oh, I got all the paperwork with me. Okay.
Rover, about the sugar pearl.
Talk about the Sugar Pearl, talk about the founding, talk about your time. Let's talk about that. Definitely figure out playstyle first before you pull for character. Okay. What if I suck at combat? What then? What the? I don't know. I just press buttons and hope that they die. Like, how am I meant to figure out what to get from that?
Once infected, children either died or suffered lifelong disabilities.
You'll pick it up, don't worry. Bro, even when I played Genshin, and I played that quite a bit, I still couldn't play as well as others. I think I just suck at gaming. But I'm a game streamer and I suck at games. That's funny.
Enough to convey how desperate people must have felt. They resorted to self-experimentation with a newly developed vaccine, risking. We owe our presence here to those who came before us. It's important to remember their sacrifices. If the sugar pearl points to the information and reports we have just read, what is Madam Magistrate trying to convey? Is it related to herself?
Oh my gosh, that was so loud. Thanks, Tetra, for the sub. I've got this. I don't know. But the subs definitely kind of made me a little bit. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. We will see. Honestly though, I don't know if there'll be any combat soon, but if you look at the VOD after this stream, you'll see that I literally have no idea what's going on. I'm like screaming majority of the time that there's a combat, and I'm just pressing every button I can. Hope for the best. If you have any tips though, I'll be glad to take it. Is it really is she implying I'm a hero? I'm one of the children that was saved. I believe it's about my past. Maybe she's trying to tell us something else.
A hero. Rover.
Yeah, she probably is implying I'm a hero because I already talked about the sugar pearl.
We have the symbol way now. This should go with the time part. But we can't yet solve the puzzle with this alone. Maybe we can figure out the cardinal direction part by looking into the tokens again.
That's why I thought I
It
enjoy
might have
solving
something to do with
puzzles.
how we got one of the clues. What do you think, Rover?
Talk about magistrate. Talk about all the
Let's look back at what
tokens.
we've gathered so far.
Oh!
Our clues point to the sugar pearl as a key in solving the sundial's puzzle.
I have a voice. I have a sexy voice.
Simply put, one token can lead to multiple targets, and one target may hold several pieces of information.
I sound American, like an American robot though. I'll try and help where I can, but if you ever need help with anything and I'm not around, just give me a DM. Okay, thank you. I most likely probably will ask something, because yeah.
We both had a reason for meeting. The magistrate had information to share, while I had questions to ask. However, her tokens contain both what she wants to tell me and what I want to ask her. Maybe she was running out of time. That's why she could only offer us scraps of the puzzle, instead of actually putting it together. Perhaps she's indeed a master strategist, leaving breadcrumbs for us to follow. The initial clues may simply be a test to... In other words, there are people who need to be misled, and they may obtain these tokens. It seems there may be hidden dangers lurking in Jinzhou. If it were you, Yang Yang, what would you do to make sure the recipient gets what you mean?
I would emphasize my true message by repeating it.
Yang Yang's voice is so high pitched, and mine is just like normal toned, normal pitched. I don't know. Okay, so I gotta leave the academy now. I don't know what's going on anymore. Wait. What is this? What is this? I get a weapon? I don't know what any of these do though. I don't really want to click on anything. I don't know enough yet. I don't want to choose the wrong things and make a mistake and not be able to do it again, you know. No, I was just asking my boyfriend if he was playing this game as well, because he actually told me about this game before it came out, but he hasn't played it yet. He is playing Valorant. I'm getting really warm. My window open. It is. I might have bugged my fire though. Okay. You make it sound like I'm old.
Baijin said he is in great health.
We love Valorant. Yeah.
He made some progress in
Right.
investigating the tokens.
I have Valorant uninstalled until the update. I don't even care about the battle pass anymore. I needed a break and exams. I needed to play games that were not going to make me feel more depressed, you know. But I did download it and look at my night market, which had the Gaia's Vandal. So I had to get it, of course. But I already had like Valorant points, so I just used those. I didn't like spend extra money. I don't think I'm really gonna spend much more money on that game.
Well, Uncle Jang's cat climbed a tree, and on its way down, it landed on Uncle Jumpy's head, causing him to take a tumble. I received a report about someone going missing. I just logged the case and talked to the person who reported it. You're not the one they're searching for, though. Anyhow, I need to visit the person who reported the case tomorrow. Oh, I also tried searching for Rover's terminal number, but the system came up with nothing. The latest record was from today when I took Rover for registration.
That's quite a lot. You almost put me to sleep. That's quite a lot. You got me feeling hungry. Looks like you had a fruitful day. Do you want me to come along tomorrow?
Are you not going to investigate the tokens?
It might be linked.
Alright, I still owe you a meal. The night markets are closed, though. Let's grab breakfast at Panhua's restaurant tomorrow before my shift. Meet you guys there in the morning. Be there or be square.
What do we do now?
Obviously.
Oh.
Don't tell me you're planning on some activities.
Night is the time to beat up the Tacit Discords. Night is the time to meet up with Jinxi. Who's that? Who's Jinxi again? I forgot who that was.
What? You're hanging out with our magistrate already?
Oh.
Do you have a place to stay, Rover?
Talk about hospitality. Alright, enough.
See, my memory's so bad, I won't remember
Let's
much.
get Rover back to the city hall, and we'll leave the rest till tomorrow.
Okay. You guys can come with me. Oh, I'm scared. Who are you? Oh, watching me, watching you. Did you complete a quest? Yay. Nice. Alright. Now we have to rest until morning. Oh, okay. We don't even get to see our room. Okay, let's go. It's the next day. We're gonna have some food.
Mrs. Panhua, good morning. 3 bowls of extra spicy noodles, please.
Extra spicy noodles in the morning.
What did I tell ya? Nothing beats a bowl of spicy noodles in the morning.
What do you say, Rover?
I haven't had my first bite yet. It was too spicy. I love it. It's just so I like it. I quite like spicy noodles, so.
Locked herself in the lab again. Hasn't left since yesterday. Bet we won't see her till she's done with her research. No, wait. Since you're the subject of that research, we could use you as bait to lure her out. We can tie you up at the Academy's entrance with just a few tugs of the rope. I bet every researcher will come running at you with Baijer leading the pack. Hook, line, and sinker.
You give it a try. Ha, that sounds dangerous. Let's not try that. Let's just laugh.
Now that we figured out the sugar pearl and the sundial, all that's left is that weird leaf and run-of-the-mill mangosteen, right? So it only took us 1 trip to the Academy to solve half of our problems. Either Rover's really smart, or Madam Magistrate was gonna make it easy for us to begin with.
What's our next plan of action, Rover?
Look at the magazine. Look into The strange leaf. We got 2 more days, might as well just wait. Have other plans? Look at the strange leaf.
The leaf bears the frequencies of tacit discords, so it must be from a tree near a tacit field. Then we must leave the city to pursue this lead.
Tell them about the dream you had, madam.
An ocean of stars, a dark-haired girl, an inverted etheric sea, and the resonance cord flowing from your tacit mark. And you said it was flowing in a certain direction, pointing to the gorges of spirits and the Norful Barrens. You've never mentioned this before.
I can't find the right moment. I thought it was just a dream.
The etheric sea and resonance cords in your dreams are real, possibly leading to the gorges of spirits and Norful Barrens. Perhaps it was more than just a dream. That girl might be the key to recovering your memories. Madam Magistrate's information aside, it seems to me it's a site of the Threnodian War and the source of all TD outbreaks. The Midnight Rangers' frontline base is stationed there as well.
It's a no-go for me if you're leaving the city. My shift's coming up. Protect Rover well, and shoot me a message if you need anything, alright, Yang Yang?
Okay, I'm sure you meant the other way. I'm really sure you know. You can just wait for the good news.
I believe in ya!
Without a doubt.
Okay. Right, so hold Alt to show cursor and click. Oh. Oh. What's this? What is this? I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, my current union level is only 4, so I can't even do any of those. Oh, that's claimable. Okay. Oh, I see. Head to the city gate. Whoa. Yeah, we made a shortcut this time. We're ready to leave the city. Oh, I'm leaving the city.
Resonators can boost our combat abilities with special items. Our echoes can use them too. If you feel like it, head to Instructor Yan at the training camp for extra practice and to get these enhancement items.
Instructor Yan. Okay. That might be helpful actually. To increase your resonation level, come over. Okay. Oh, I'm leveling her up, am I? Oh, okay. Where's the instructor persons? Is this the training ground area? Oh, I'm climbing the wall. Is this the guy? Oh, never mind. Where's the training ground? You know what? I think I'm just gonna end the stream here actually because we've been streaming for like 3 hours now. And that's crazy time for me. So this has been very fun though, and I definitely will be playing this again soon. I want to thank everyone who joined today, and we hit our follow goal, which is crazy. And for all the subs and just everyone being here. I'm not sure when I'm next gonna stream. Probably after Tuesday at some point because my last exam is on Tuesday. But then yeah, we'll probably play this or Disney Dreamlight Valley or whatever we feel like playing on the